Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 275. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V. Johnny, no late breaking news. We are not coming in on a special Friday afternoon like we did a few days ago. Instead, just the same old Tuesday night. We're here for everyone.
We're just going to check in with a different 5-time world champion real quick.
Yes.
And then we're going to chat with Eagle McMahon later tonight, a major champion, as well as Pro Tour and National Tour. It's just one of those boring nights. It's not
just another night, just another podcast. Well, in all seriousness, of course, we are so glad that you're here with us, joining us tonight. Special guest, as Johnny just mentioned a moment ago, we're going to have Paul McBeth. And now I'm not really billing this, so to speak, as a full-blown interview / check-in. Paul's actually kind of working on a project or affiliated with a project, and he's going to give us an update or two regarding that. And then Eagle, I've been watching him rehab, getting himself ready, really dialed in for the 2020 season. And Eagle, along with a handful of others, it's become quite actually motivating and inspiring to see them continually post about it. They're working with Seth Muncie. They're working with Disc Golf Strong. I saw another post by AJ Risley today saying that he has a coupon code or a discount code if you want to go out there and support him. But really awesome to see. And Eagle had an awesome Instagram post this morning where I think in his neck of the woods out in Colorado got 14 or 16 inches of fresh snow. And he went out there in really nothing but a pair of shorts and dove right into the snow, making some snow angels and enjoying the winter weather as it hit hard out in Colorado. So excited to catch up with both of those guys. Of course, in the after show, things sometimes get a little off the rails. I'm feeling a bit, I'm going to tell you right now.
Are you feeling frisky?
I'm feeling a bit frisky, a little bit punchy tonight. And I really have nothing behind that. Just in general, I was out and about just before I got here, and I'll say, bless you, I was in the retail world. I stopped by Best Buy, had to return something, I had to look for an item or two. And surprisingly, everyone, great spirits, lots of smiles, lots of friendliness. Soon they'll be stabbing each other on Black Friday, trying to, chase after one another for a discount on a blender.
Do you miss it?
I do.
I was telling somebody like yesterday or the day before at work how, you and I worked when we were in high school, we worked in Best Buy together. And same store and everything, that the day after Thanksgiving was my favorite day to work. Black Friday. It was, and traditionally I usually worked either the cash register or customer service. Customer service, not quite as much fun as the cashier, but it was one of the best days of the year because I always made it a point to be as joyful and cheerful as humanly possible in some of the most horrible situations that people have been waiting for 45 minutes in line or whatever they're doing, or didn't have the favorite Tickle Me Elmo or whatever the hot thing was. And sometimes you could see people starting to steam the more happy that you were. And it filled me with excitement, and the days always went by really fast.
Yeah, next thing you know, you got a 12-hour shift in something like that, and it felt like it was like 2 hours, and it just flew right by. Well, one thing, maybe I'll ask the Smashies right now. I am an Android guy as opposed to Johnny here, and I'm looking for a set of wireless earbuds, and fully wireless,
like
a.k.a. the iPod or AirPod style.
Google just released a new version.
Okay, well, so that's something I'm looking for feedback. I remember I actually was in the store and I text Sarah Hokum, and I'm like, I know you have a pair. What pair do you have? Do you like them? But that's a call out. So if you've got something, feel free to put it in the comments so I can do a little bit of my consumer reporting here on the show, because that's what it's most valuable for. So I am looking for something along that nature. I had a wired set that I took before we traveled over to Croatia, and I just they weren't doing it for me, so they got returned, and now I need something else.
I don't have anything to really say.
I know.
My coworker who sits right next to me, he is a Google fanboy with the Pixel 4. Does he have?
Okay.
Or maybe it's just the 3, and he's about to get the 4. And he had the first set of Google earbuds, and he said he really enjoyed them, but I guess they're releasing a new version or something along those lines. I don't know all the details, but I can ask him.
And they're totally wireless.
Totally wireless, just like the AirPods.
Okay. Well,
just
that's
a slightly different case.
That's something that I'm going to be in the market for.
I will laugh when you lose them.
That's possible. We'll see.
It's likely.
Also, another great reason to have, and not that we needed a reason, but a great tie to having Eagle this evening. Last day or two, I have been releasing the PCS Open footage. Eagle and I, of course, will talk about that a little bit. Just this tremendous event that we had a great time going over to Norway. I got to extend the visit. He went and traveled around the country and did some clinics and demonstrations. Myself and Avery Jenkins traveled around the entire west coast of the country, playing courses and really sightseeing. And the following of the event was just as fun as the event itself. But the footage is out, and just only the finals remain. So those will come out tomorrow. One of the cool things that has been very well received, we had a male and female combo from Norway take all the exact same footage and then also put Norwegian commentary over the top. And it seems like that's been pretty well received, except for one guy today I saw in the comment section. It's like, yeah, it was like a few minutes into this before I finally realized it wasn't in English. He's totally immersed.
I was going to say, does that count for the immersion of the video, that it tells its own story, that the commentators are just there for flowery language?
I don't know, but so please check that out. And then, of course, as we'll talk briefly with Paul, McBeth, he's got a new teammate, and as you alluded to, another 5-time world champion joining Team Discraft, where he made his move to last year, and lots of hubbub around that Paige Pierce lady.
He's got his own highlight clip too. I just
wow.
put it out on yesterday. If you were interested, go watch 11 minutes of Paul McBeth hitting some ridiculous shots.
Mostly putts or mostly drives? Great forehand scrambles out of the woods.
There was
What's
one
in there?
There was one forehand scramble that I really enjoyed from Ledgestone, the long hole coming back 14, where he's up against the trees, the one that Double G always rolls and puts it past.
Sure, way out to the corner.
Yep. So he was kind of in the off the fairway, had to throw a forehand, and parked it, of course, because that's the highlight clip. But a lot of putts, some really great approaches. You know, it's interesting.
Okay.
Anyway, go check that out. It's a lot of fun. It's about 12 minutes long.
So in addition to talking to them, of course, as always, we'll go over any other news or activities going on that we saw. Things a little bit quieter as we're rolling into this holiday weekend, and not too much on the mover and shaker front outside of the major announcement with Paige Pierce. Not too many other, it's hard to top that if you even can at this point, but Paige Pierce being that big news. And somehow if you're out of the loop or you didn't find it or know about it, or
you woke up from a coma today,
we had an impromptu, exclusive, almost spur of the moment interview with Paige on Friday. She announced Friday morning that she was has signed with Team Discraft. Then she worked with us actually and said that she would love to come on the show. We talked about doing it tonight, and then I said, well, I just feel like it's the weekend. Things are going to lose steam. You're going to talk to all these other people, and there's going to be all sorts of fragments out there. And she said, hey, let's just knock it out right away. So Johnny was able to
sneak out of work.
Okay, I'll say it. Yeah, sneak out of work a little early. And it was one of my favorite interviews because I feel like it was just so incredibly raw. She really didn't hold back. I felt like she shared everything that she could share that was, timely and appropriate. And I don't really feel like there was a lot that she held back on. And it was a lot of fun. So we appreciate Paige and her honesty and her openness and, any form of backstory or forward story that we're going to hear and see as a result of it. And, of course, the Jomez profiled piece had also then released. They had it scheduled for yesterday. It ended up coming out today. And it was about 8 or so minutes, very similar fashion to what we saw during the Worlds with all of the MPO while they were covering them. So it was great to see Paige, and really she was a co-star in it with her dad, which was pretty incredible to see and to get some of that backstory that you may or may not have already known about. So it was definitely great to see it for sure. And interesting tiny note, when she stated in there that she played the 2007 Am Worlds in Milwaukee. That was an event that I was the tournament director for. Johnny V was on the staff, and she was here playing. And at that time, I knew of someone that was good. I didn't, obviously, she wasn't quite the story yet. It was 2007, so she hadn't gone on and done anything, nationwide or national that was major yet. But I knew that she was here, and it's kind of interesting to think about it that way. Also, conveniently, where Paul McBeth went home, the first loser, as Paige's dad would say, as he ended up being runner-up at that Amateur World Championships. So, all right, now as we're talking trash about him, I'll see if he's ready. If you are ready, we'll hit up Skype, and we'll see if he can jump in or if we can reach out to him. So, and outside of that, another quick note, you made a post on Facebook today on our Smashbox account, as I did on my personal account a few days ago or a week ago or two as well. Please, if you're interested in coverage, whether it's post-production, which usually I kind of head up, or if it's some form of a live production, 2, 3 rounds, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it is, reach out to us. And we say that because just the schedule is really filling up. We are just
between the Disc Golf Pro Tour 11 events, possibly Worlds, probably GBO, the events, those are just the live ones, not to mention the events Terry's going to be doing for post-production. The weekends fill up pretty quick, so if your event is out here looking for any sort of live or post, and I understand most of them are probably looking for post-production because live is, it can be pricey depending on what you're looking for. Feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to me, reach out to Terry. Either one of us can point you in the right direction and get what you need taken care of, and we can answer any questions you have. But ultimately, I'm excited.
It is, and we're just flattered. There was another, I'm going to say, international opportunity that reached out to me just this morning. Not sure if it's going to be able to come to fruition, but there are a lot of weekends with a lot of great events, all looking for coverage, and wherever we can fit in. And of course, if we're not a solution, I think we can help at least point you in a direction that might be. So, all right. So looks like he is all ready to go. He's been here a number of times, but we haven't talked to him in a little while.
It's been about 3 months.
And I think it sounds about due. We are going to bring in from our Disc Baron Digital Green Room, welcome our 5-time world champ, Paul McBeth. How are we doing tonight, Paul?
Great. How are you guys?
We're wonderful. We have it's the off season. I'm sure just like you, we're making plans for next year already.
Hashtag making moves, bro.
Making moves.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, let's lead with that. Of course, the biggest news in disc golf in the last week and maybe in the last few weeks, Paige Pierce returns to Discraft, where she started her early sponsorship career. And as we said, 10 world titles between the two of you. What were some of the conversations you've had with Paige, as you guys have been friends and competitors for all these years? But as you guys have been friends, what were some of the conversations you guys had?
Well, honestly, not many leading up to her signing with Discraft. You know, there were a few. The one that I remember the most was we actually had like a small talk at Worlds. Not Worlds, Smuggler's Notch up at GMC, sorry. And that's it's funny because that's where I made my my decision to switch to Discraft last year. So it was a very familiar spot. So we had a good conversation there, but you know how negotiations, how they can go. So I didn't know really where she was going up until maybe 2 weeks before she made her announcement.
So is it fair to say that you didn't have too many conversations with, say, Bob or Mike or some of the powers people in power, powers to be, in charge over at Discraft, or did you?
Oh, I definitely had a lot of talks with them. I talked with Bob, Mike, and I didn't really talk to Jim Kenner, but I know he had a big influence on it. He really wanted her. So I think it was surprising to Bob and Mike when Jim came to them and said, we have Paul, why don't we go get the top female? And I don't know if he knew that there was like a 3-year agreement or whatever it was. I think he was just, hey, like, let's make this move and do this sometime in the future, and didn't know it was going to be that soon.
Well, it's been an incredible story. Of course, a lot of hype and excitement. And before we move on from that, one final thought is, you, in your early part of your career, before you were sponsored by Innova, you were throwing a little bit of a mixed bag, so to speak. You had a few Discraft molds and a few Innova molds. Paige, of course, early on in her career, throwing a little bit of both. Do you feel like, for someone like her, like you, any challenge to switching over to learning plastic, making new molds? Is there any challenge when you're that good?
I think it's a learning curve more than anything. There is definitely, like, for me, when I switched, I needed to, early on in the season, I was trying to throw, my Discraft discs, like the Buzz and the Force. I was trying to throw them like a rock and a destroyer, but they're not those discs, So I was trying to revert back to my game plan previous years on what to do with these holes, but with different discs, and wasn't working out. And it took a little bit to learn that, in the sense of I need to forget what I've done in the past and just approach these courses as new, and approach them with the discs in my bag. So there might be that learning curve, but I think she'll jump that hurdle really quick. And it's just learning the courses. I think she'll know all the discs by the time the season starts, but it'll be that little shock value of you can't go back to previous years on what you've thrown on certain holes.
I think one of the things that shook some people during her interview was the fact that she said she came in and was able to have a lot of input on her mold for her putter. Is it really that quick to basically make those adjustments and have something in your hands? She said like 15 or 20 minutes. Is that kind of, or have you seen that type of thing work? How does that go?
Yeah, I don't know what I can and can't say. If I would have known this question was going to be asked, if I would have asked them what I can't say.
If you can't say, that's fine.
But they can do that there, okay. Yes. Right. Yeah, and I don't know anywhere else that can from beginning to end make a disc as fast as they can.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and do you have any words of advice as she does, jump into this next season? Is there any one piece of advice that you're like, okay, I've been there through 1 year. Here I am now. This is my second year. One piece of advice, and it may be not even course related. Or
yeah, I mean, related. I think she's one of the few where you don't really have to say much. They put out that Jomez video not that long ago, and it just kind of shows her determination in the sport, on the course, off the course, and growing up. So there's not much that I think she needs to be told. But one thing is now in this position where she is, with all this, I guess, freedom, you can say, not every idea is a good idea. As much as she wants to go out and sample these new things, and whether it's make a disc, make a shirt, it's weird telling ourselves to slow down, because we're getting all these ideas that we think should be going, to where we can just kind of throw all our ideas out there in the first year, but we're signed to 4. So
spread it out.
Yeah. That sounds like pretty sound advice. Don't overwhelm yourself maybe with all of this newfound freedom or excitement, and pace yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot since her announcement. So we're talking about ideas back and forth, and how we can think of cool ideas to collab together.
And that's exactly what people are asking on the board, is what types of things might we see, where you two will team up. Again, you guys have been friends for a number of years. It was maybe almost entirely Paige's direction or fault, so to speak, that you ultimately met Hannah. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Hannah was a big fan of Paige back in the day, and Paige is the sole reason we ended up meeting. So.
All right. So you're doing your stuff. You're working through the off season, getting prepped, doing everything you need to do. But I've spent a few weekends in the same living quarters as you. I know that you're competitive off the course. I know that could be other sports, and that could be other things, including board games. And did a little Birdie, did a little Birdie tell me that you're a little more intimately involved and checking out this newest board game that Steve Dodge talked about a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, Steve actually brought the board game. He mentioned it to me maybe a month ago, I think, if not a little longer. But yeah, he mentioned it, and the thing with Steve is when he kind of got out of the pro tour, everyone was kind of like, all right, what's next for Steve? Nobody questioned that there wasn't going to be a next thing, and and Birdie is his next project, and he actually contacted me about testing his game and seeing what I thought, and just sharing my opinion on it. And I had some friends here in Virginia, actually the guys at Foundation, and Hannah and I played, and it was a lot of fun. It kind of gave like an on-course type feel while sitting in our kitchen. So it was a lot of fun, and we are going to partner up for this first Kickstarter.
Awesome. He was on here talking about it. I think the Kickstarter's either releasing on Friday, I believe, this week?
Yep, Friday.
Okay.
Yep, Black Friday. It'll be dropping, and there's all sorts of tiers from like a $5 support all the way up to $10,000 support. And there's some cool little things. He's got some levels and tiers in there where I know one of them is even you can win. You could donate, and Steve and his brother Todd will hand deliver it to you and play the game with you.
Okay.
And then one tier above that, if there's a support there, Hannah and I will go and hand deliver it to you and play with you.
Wow.
Yeah,
now, would there be any obligation to not maybe try and win when you hand deliver it on that first one? I mean, that's a pretty serious tier.
There's a note in there that says you'll probably lose. So he put that in there. He put the disclaimer.
Okay, I like it. Now, to clarify for everyone, of course, we're talking about Steve Dodge, and he's doing this with his brother Todd, and Todd has another full-time career, but Todd has also been one of those tireless supporters that's been out there, usually working cameras. I mean, and this dates back like the early 2000s when the Marshall Streets were going on. Todd was one of those guys working a camera, one of the dozen cameras they had out there. And so he's been getting closer and closer to the game of disc golf and playing himself. But now to see the two of them team up to create this Boda Brothers, board game company is pretty exciting. What were some of the pieces of feedback directly that night, even when you were playing with him, and maybe explain some of that developmental process, like when you were,
some of the feedback. The first thing I noticed is when he brought it here, we didn't look through it. He kind of just gave us the cards we needed, showed us the board. So if I actually just got the box firsthand, I think I would want to look through the cards and kind of see all the fun things in it. But he might have done that purposefully to where I have to buy it to see all the cards. So, so there was that. I would have liked to see them all. But I think the feedback that we gave him was kind of a way to make it just feel a little bit more like you're playing the hole. But he had a lot of people test it before us, so there wasn't many things that I said, hey, maybe you should tweak this, maybe you should tweak that. Our only real tips were maybe you should make a different type, a new card that's probably common in disc golf, especially the touring side of things that might happen on an average round. So he pretty much had already done by the time he got to us.
Now, today's announcement, I believe it was today, talked about a tour card or a player card of sorts, and that yes. I think coincidentally is you. What exactly does that card do, or what does that mean and how can someone get it? Is it part of every set?
So I wish I had his. There we go. That's the card right there.
Okay, Johnny's got up on the spot.
So it's a player card, and it's got all the little distance, karma, accuracy, putting, and focus there. And they kind of break down differently on each roll or each shot or each hole. They're very important spots. But I believe every order in the Kickstarter, if he can reach his stretch goal, will have this card in it. And there will be some will be hand signed, and this is part of the partnership that the Boda brothers and I are having for this first Kickstarter.
Is this two different cards? Because I'm seeing a Paul McBeth and I'm seeing a McBeast Paul
Oh,
McBeth.
sorry. Yeah, so how the card works, the player card is there's a front side, and then when I don't know how to describe the whole process of when this happens, but if you flip the card over, it's kind of like a level up. So I couldn't see half the stats on one side, but the distance might go up, the putting and focus might go up. So the card will have like when it flips over, I think it went to McBeast mode there.
What?
So each player has that.
One of the things that I hear every year on the news is the Madden stats. Everybody wants to be 99. If you're the quarterback, you want to have the 99 accuracy, the 99 speed. Like next year, I'm sure if you're following, if Lamar Jackson is like the guy this year, he's ridiculous.
Incredible.
Yeah, the guy's incredible. And do you see an issue with this in the future, seeing as how right now, the Paul McBeth distance is 500 feet. If we have a Nate Sexton card and it comes out and it's, let's just say, 390 feet, do you think Nate's going to be like, hey, Paul, hey, Steve, I can hit 410. Come on. I need 20 more feet distance. Do you see players getting up in arms about this?
Well, I think it's it'd be funny if it did. I think it'd be cool because, like in Madden, if they feel like their stats are low, they can send Madden professionals out there to go out there and test them. So but it can work negatively too. So if Nate goes out and throws it 240, 250, his stats are going a lot lower. So I think it'd be fun.
Well, and now I'll follow that up. Isn't there both a Sports Illustrated and a Madden cover curse? Is that both of those situations? Now, it doesn't appear from whatever I've seen from any of the branding right now, that doesn't look like there's any one particular person or brand that we'll likely see on the top of the box as it's just called Birdie, and it looks like it's got Maple Hill. Hopefully it doesn't bring any ill will toward Maple Hill as a course, but that's something that it'll be interesting to see if there's other limited editions. I don't know. My mind is already racing.
I'm seeing this one here. It says
Yeah.
This is a Luna card.
Say that again?
I said this one right here looks like it's a Luna card.
No, I think it's saying course record
No.
edition
Yes, it's a
box.
Luna
It says
card.
PM Luna right here.
Yeah.
Too.
Yes.
No, I know, but that comes with that set. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the Kickstarter will be the Paul McBeth Course Record Edition. And I don't know if we figured out the details. I think Black Friday I'll know, or everyone will know. But I think we might have 45 personalized cards mixed in with the Kickstarter, where it'll be like a gold level card. Same stats, but just, it'll just be a limited number. But yeah, the course record with the 45, I think it fit very well with this being the Maple Hill, and then the partnership we're able to make for this. But I think Maple Hill is a great course for this game to start. That's Steve was a big part of making that thing happen, and just another one of his ideas. So I'm excited to be a part of this, and I'm ready to see how it goes.
Is there one question I'll have on this? Two questions. One, hopefully we'll have an edition, so maybe at Throwdown the Mountain over at Dwayne's place, we'll be able to possibly play a game throughout that weekend. But two, is this a game that as we're playing, you can get any better at? Personally, as just a player within the game. If I've played it 10 times as opposed to someone who's played it 100, are they going to have any advantage in playing the board game?
Yeah, I think it's strategic.
Okay.
Strategic. And I'm sorry, my internet and Wi-Fi is going all whack. They're supposed to be fixing it here soon. But you know how that could be.
Yeah.
You can definitely get better, smarter. I think, but then it relies on how the dice roll too. You can make certain decisions that will help you or will hurt you, and when you decide to use your cards, whether good for you or bad for others. So there is strategy to it as well. But I think it's really cool too, because we didn't get the chance to, but I think you could almost safari the type of course that you want as well. So you can pick your favorite 9 holes, you can play a whole 18. But yeah, there's a lot, and I think this is just the start. I think in the future they'll be able to have more course editions, and maybe they'll have like a dream course edition too.
So this might sound like a dumb question, but who should buy this game? Or maybe the better question is, who shouldn't bother buying this game? Could you answer either of those?
I think everyone should buy it, but if I had to pick a group that shouldn't buy it, I just think people that can't sit down for an hour or more kind of just get bored sitting. But it's not a boring game at all. It's a lot of fun because you never know really what's going to happen. You can take a 9 on a hole just like you can ace one of the holes, but both are pretty difficult to do. Yeah, I think everyone should get it. I think everyone should try it out. Support this. I think the biggest impact it'll have is it can reach disc golf and families that have never played disc golf. I know when I go up like for holidays with Hannah's family, they're big into board games, and this would be a great game to bring up and introduce their whole side of the family to disc golf in some way, and be like, this course is right down the road from you. Go check it out. I think it's a great introduction to disc golf for a lot of people, and who knows, maybe it'll make it into box stores. But I think one of the big things with the Kickstarter is it's got a really good retailer package with it as well. So if you're a retailer of some sort, this would be good to have at your stores.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and put on record that I think a stereotype of golf, and even, yes, believe it or not, disc golf, would be something that some people say it's not exciting, or they can get a little bored with it. So to take a board game and then to make either of those sports, golf or disc golf, to make them exciting and fun to play, I think is a legitimate challenge. Because I know if I were going, even with my own 2 daughters, if we went into Target and we're looking at the wall of board games, for instance, and there was a game for disc golf, other than like just the novelty of seeing disc golf, my daughters, even my own daughters, would be like, nah, that wouldn't even interest them, and obviously they have a tie to the sport. So, and they're, fringe fans, but I think that is a significant step, and I'm glad to see Steve doing it, but to try and draw in that crowd. And that's where I guess I was thinking of, will we get people outside of our sport to buy this? I mean, obviously we have a target market. How much can it sprawl? I think that's maybe the exciting question.
Exactly, it is. It's the unknown question, and I think that's what I'm most excited about with this project, is that we can try to do that with this, and it's a different avenue, and I think that's really what attracted me to it the most. Besides, enjoying playing the game, is let's see how far this can go. Like let's see where it can go, where it can end up, and let's do it. I feel like this is a good time for it, and right now Steve doesn't have much on his hands, so
well,
he has some time to work on this.
So maybe I would consider this a fair question, answered, if you will. Are you an advocate? Are you a partner now? Are you an ambassador of sorts? Is there a chance for you to make any form of kickbacks, you or your brand, or are you just fully excited as a game player, or is it a combination of all those, or some of those?
It's a combination of all those. I told him I didn't want any money for this. I just want it to be successful, and that'll be happy. That'll make me happy. That'll, I think, make him and his brother ecstatic to get their game out there. But I just think it's a cool partnership, just because I did shoot the 45 out there at Maple Hill years ago, and that this, it's kind of something special to me, and I love board games. This is, I said, if it takes off, maybe we'll talk about that in the future. But I have no interest in trying to make money off of this. I think I just want it to be a success.
You've talked, and I guess I'd love a little update about the course you're going to be ultimately putting in your backyard. Could we ever see possibly once that course is done and comes to fruition, is there a chance we could even see it make this board game?
That'd be cool. I don't know if you could see, but I have this little black eye from working on the course this week, chopping down trees, and trees coming back at me. So Yeah, it's been a lot of work, but it's been fun. We got probably about 5 of the holes to where I'd be like, okay, we could put this in and play it. There's nothing in the ground yet, but Hannah's dad's out there working so hard. It's crazy. It's hard for me to keep up with him, but it's what he loves to do, and it's like a job for me. So I'm doing
When
what
are
I
you
can.
expecting
But
completion?
it's coming along,
When do you
nicely.
think you're gonna have
Say that
18
again?
when do you think you'll have 18 baskets in the ground so that you and probably a very small private group of people at first at least can go out and play it? When do you expect completion?
I think we could have that done by the spring and have some test little events with the local club here. If we get some work days in, because realistically, we have to do it all in the winter out here because the thorns and leaves grow so fast. But once they're mowed down, it's no problem keeping them down. It's just getting them down in the first place. So hopefully we get some work parties out here, and then we can run some little club events and see where it's at. But I don't have a timeline for it. I'm not going to set. I want it done by spring or done by summer. But if it happens, I'll be ecstatic with that. But if not, I'm not against waiting until 2021 or something.
Well, it's about time you get to work. Weren't you just on like a cruise or vacation? I mean, is that all you're doing in the off season? Just shelling, throwing money off the
Yeah,
side of a
going to
boat or something?
Michigan, cruising. Yeah,
uh, uh,
yeah.
Give everyone a quick recap if they haven't seen maybe one of the vlogs yet. But where'd you go? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
Hannah and I and 4 of her girlfriends, we went to. We left out of Miami. We went to Puerto Rico, St. Martin, Coco Cay, and it was a 7-day cruise. And it was my first cruise, Hannah's first cruise, and I think two of the 4. But we just had a great time. We went ATV riding through the Puerto Rican rainforest, went to the beach, sat on a ship, played a lot of sports. It was surprisingly fun. Luckily, the ship was really big, so there was a lot to do, and yeah, we had a blast. We'll probably do it again in the future someday, but yeah, that was enough to hold us off until next year sometime.
Well, and I was gonna say my only cruise experience is via Johnny V, who goes on a Disney cruise a couple times. So I was gonna ask as to your recommendation. Is that something you could see yourself doing? And I guess you kind of just said yes, but you might wait a little while. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we went with a fun group, but it was all girls, so it was hard to find the ones that wanted to do all of them to do the sports. But yeah, it was still a great time. So I definitely do it again, but I think I can wait until next year to do it again.
Yeah, I found that a cruise is good. We went 2 years between, and that seemed like a pretty decent timetable. But I see. Now, do you see Hannah dragging you onto like one of the Disney Star Wars cruises? Is that like her next?
She didn't like the cruise as much as me, but she wants to go to Disney. So we'll probably end up going to Disney in like January or something, maybe early February. But she wants to go to Disney, especially with all the Star Wars stuff popping up. So we'll probably wait till next year sometime to do that early in the year, and then it's back to the season. Comes up quick.
Well, and I think we're going to catch up with you. We'll save a few more of the, I'll say 2020 specific questions when we catch up with you probably in a couple months. But so the last thing I'll ask you before you go here tonight, we're going to catch up with Eagle in a moment. A week or so ago, another one of your teammates also made some pretty big news, and that being Ben Askren. He has officially retired from the MMA, from UFC, and from competitive fighting, as far as I know. Obviously, he talked about his hip needing a replacement, but then maybe after that, do you think we'll see him get more serious about disc golf? Did you guys have any conversations?
We haven't had any long conversation about disc golf since he retired. I just congratulated him on his career, and I said, it's sad to see it end, but I'm happy for him and his family going forward, because now he'll have more time with them and in his wrestling academies and stuff like that. So I mean, he's still gonna be a really busy guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to talk him into going to the Sula Open with me in Norway. when we went up and visited, his wife was talking about how Norway is like the one spot she wants to go, and this had nothing to do with the tournament. And she just said she's always wanted to go to Norway. So I've been messaging Ben and badgering him about it, and just be like, hey, you usually take that week off, so let's go to Norway. So we'll see if I can convince him. And there's not much convincing for his wife. So.
Then you know where to put the pressure. That's easy.
Yeah. Well, and that event.
So we'll see.
Awesome. I was going to say that event, part of the 6th stop of the Euro Tour. I know Norway is one that coincidentally butts up against and conflicts with the Portland Open. I've been looking at the schedule quite a bit myself. But then the following weekend being the Estonian Open, and I think you're registered and planning on going to both of those. So should be pretty cool to see.
I want to make a nice Europe trip this year. I want to go to, I think, 7 different countries in Europe. So I'll be out there for almost a full month. But that's my game plan.
Awesome. All right, Paul. Well, again, we're going to let you go. I know we'll have more as you get closer to the official start of the season. We'd love to catch up with you. I'm sure you're going to have some new things in the works. I know you've released your tour schedule, so a lot of people know where that is. And there might be a little fine tuning to that, between now and then. And I'm sure we'll get the rest of the goods before 2020 officially kicks off.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And then if Eagle's watching, I'm gonna be watching. I want to see what he has to say. I haven't heard from him in a while. Yeah, thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
All right, sounds
Thanks
good.
a lot, Paul.
Have a good night. Take care.
Bye.
All right, Paul McBeth, talking to us a little bit about one of his other competitive natures, and that, of course, being the board games. And like I said, this last year, for the last few years, when we've had the pleasure for Throwdown the Mountain, we've stayed with a gentleman and his wife about 30 minutes from the course, and they've been gracious hosts. And there is a dining room table where I know this last year it was Simon, Hannah, myself, and Paul, and we sat down to a pretty it didn't get out of hand, but it was a dice game, and now I forget the exact name of it. It kind of reminded you of a Yahtzee type game, and it got a little fierce in there for a little while. But I know he loves to play games, and so to see him really help out and align himself with this birdie game, I'll say I'm not surprised by that at all.
Not at all. And if anyone's out there and wants to kind of keep up with the board game and the progress, you can go to Boda Brothers, BODA Brothers.com. Looks like Steve has a couple other games in the works, but for now, you can kind of just keep track of the birdie game. You can sign up for release updates. Like, keep an eye out. Black Friday, probably on Kickstarter. I'm sure you'll be able to find it if you just type in like disc golf or birdie, one of those 2 keywords on Kickstarter, and I guarantee you'll find it. And I know they've got some big, long stretch goals for actually having it produced in the United States, as opposed to, most board games are probably much cheaper to produce overseas, but then there's other logistics things about bringing them over in pallets and whatnot. So when that all gets put out there, please take a look at it. I do plan on going out there and contributing to the Kickstarter myself, so I'm excited.
And whether or not I ever get around to opening the game, just being the disc golf hoarder that I am, I of course I am excited to play it, but even if I wasn't, I would probably buy it because I think it's a pretty big moment. I know a few weeks ago we talked about the Dosh board game that was out there, that it already existed as well. Of course, I feel like it's like when you get a good course in an area, the others around there or potential courses around there don't have to feel threatened. Instead, it feels like there'll be more excitement for that area, so maybe people will travel to there. So then if you put a course nearby, people will have another reason to come play it. And the same could be said of these games. Once 1 or 2 maybe exist, I think you might see even a few more pop up, and then pretty soon we're going to have a whole kind of sub-industry of these games that could be available, and helps ultimately spread the love of disc golf, which I think everyone is probably pretty excited about. So, all right, and in just a moment, it looks like he's getting all lined up and hopefully staying warm out there in Colorado. I know he's been working on quite a few things, and we'll get some updates from him coming in from our Disc Baron Digital Green Room, we are going to welcome Eagle McMahon. Eagle, how we
Whoa.
doing tonight?
Paul's a vegetarian now?
We're good. I'm here.
Looks like
Is that coming through on the?
are you seeing any kind of a weird display over your face or no?
I am seeing that.
Okay.
Okay, that is.
So there's a little
There
glitch. There we go. I don't know.
I don't see it anymore.
No,
Something
that's
like a
gone.
Matrix. I don't know. Eagle, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? I'm here in Colorado, and it's cold outside. There's about 18 inches of snow on the ground, and it's great.
I loved your little Instagram post today. That was pretty awesome. Explain to everyone what exactly you did.
So for those who have not seen it, I basically show that there's a bunch of snow outside, and then I go jump in it, roll around, do a snow angel with basically no clothes on.
Yeah.
And just a little backstory of that, other than it just being a kind of a crazy and fun thing to do. I'm always trying to expose myself to cold temperatures and doing a lot of breathing exercises. There's this guy named Wim Hof. He's also known as the Iceman, and basically what he does is the cold is a great way to kind of channel breathing and kind of stoke an inner fire. And it's really interesting. It's kind of really hard to explain just briefly, but if you guys are interested, go look up Wim Hof. He's basically done incredible things like climb Mount Everest with shorts on, no shirts. He swam under ice for like 5 minutes. He has over 20 different world records. And the crazy thing is, he's a nut, but all of this stuff is kind of backed by science as well. There's a lot of different powerful things you can do when it comes to like controlling your immune system, getting better tolerances in the cold, all around just incredible. And I've been doing this kind of practice for about a year now. So it's fun.
I know I've actually read things about taking cold showers in the morning as opposed to warm showers in the morning that'll actually help improve your metabolism and things like that. So it's really interesting. Some of that's really
cold showers is something to do with that. For the first 5 months of the year, I didn't take a single warm shower.
Wow.
But I took a warm shower today. I'm not.
Well, wow.
But I did go out in the snow.
This opens up so many other questions. Quickly, regarding this gentleman, any chance did he have maybe consult or work with like David Blaine? Didn't David Blaine do some kind of crazy cold or underwater, 20-minute breathing thing? Any idea? No?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know he has collaborated with a bunch of different people. Like I think he collaborated with Tony Robbins of all people. So check him out. He's a man who wears many different hats.
Well, and clearly there is so much more besides maybe the physical things that he's accomplished. As you're saying, Eagle, there's so much more to learn from him just from from the psychological perspective, which just sounds incredible. Okay, wow, I'm gonna have to look into it. All right, so
very cool, yeah.
And this does bring me to thinking of the PCS Open. Right there on hole 1, they famously built a deck on hole 1 and then put not only an RV, which you can win a weekend to stay in it via CTP, a whole weekend in the RV, but then also they put a hot tub in there right on the deck, and you and Avery and really dozens of golfers would hang out in the hot tub, which was probably glorious, but then you'd have a frigid walk in the 40-degree temperatures. I guess now that you told me everything you just did when we opened, I shouldn't even think anything of that.
It's not like I don't get cold. It's just I embrace it.
Okay. All right, so let's lead with the PCS Open. It's released. It came out a day or two ago. We got some Norwegian commentary on it. You very graciously gave up a lot of your time to get on a call with me so that we could do it remotely, which always kind of introduces a new challenge or two. But you were very gracious with your time to do that. And now we're watching it. Round 1 is out. All of round 3 is out. And then tomorrow the finals are out. Kind of recap in your own words, what the PCS Open experience was like for you.
Yeah, first and foremost, it's an event in Norway. I would say I can't call it northern Norway, but it's probably like in the middle of the country. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's kind of right where all the famous fjords are, and the golf course overlooks a fjord. And I mean, it's easily top three most beautiful places I have ever been. And it was just bonus that I got to play disc golf there. The reason I went in the first place was my team manager and friend, Avery Jenkins. He always was, every year since 2016, he's been going over and basically posting the most amazing pictures of it, saying how the overall experience is. And I took his word for it, and it did not disappoint. The whole tournament staff, the PCS crew, Sivert, Joran, Brage, all those guys really know how to host us foreigners. And it was, I put it in probably my top 5, maybe top 10 disc golf experiences in my life. Just because it was so unique going to a new country, and to top it off, I had my dad there with me, so all around was amazing.
And your dad, not only there, but also his first European experience, right?
That was his first European experience. I figured I've been going over to Europe for, I guess it was a few years at this point, a few years prior, and he's never been there. I'm like, okay, we got to get him over here to see what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. And even though it was rainy and dreary and cold for some of the play, a lot of people have been commenting in the video comments, just saying how gorgeous it is, and kind of echoing all of the statements. It's just obvious to see when you're out there, and it's even better, of course, when you're there in person. So looking forward to an awesome PCS experience in 2020. And now kind of somewhat of a side note to even all of that, all the amazing things you said, that was the same weekend as Smuggler's Notch. And Paul McBeth was, of course, in Vermont, and he had won that event. Now, I know the payout structure is a little different in Europe and at some European tournaments, but you took home more money for this 2-day C-tier than Paul did for winning a Pro Tour event, a well-established, great Pro Tour event. That's almost ridiculous in itself.
Yeah, the numbers were crazy. I did win more up front, but when you look at behind the scenes contracts, there is some more money for Paul on that side, because the PCS Open was only labeled as a C tier, which I think you said it in the commentary. It was not your basic C tier, not that case whatsoever. But yeah, that statistic is kind of funny, and I that definitely made me happy in my decision.
Yeah, I mean, now if you want to see a normal C tier, this weekend I'm running a C tier. Top prize is going to be $200 or $300, not $3,500. So. Yeah,
granted, the payout structure was a little different. I believe that there was somewhere around 70 players in the field, and they only paid the top 10. So that's why the payout was more stout up at the top.
Yeah, a little bit different. But as I've already said as well in the past, Avery he won again the putting competition this year, free to enter at the party. He wins a putting competition and takes home $1,000 for that. So that's not bad for throwing a few dozen putts either. So pretty incredible. Now, you enjoyed your experience. Elaborate a little bit of what you did outside of being there for the actual tournament.
Yeah, it's really amazing what the opportunity I had over there. One of my teammates, Luke Sandvik, she's the top FPO player in Norway. She proposed the idea of doing I believe it was it was either 5 or 6. Let's go with 6 clinic tour around the lower part of Norway. And, we had a great turnout at each one of the places we went to, about 40 to 50 people. And it was so amazing because the Norwegian people were so accommodating and so grateful that I took time to go do that. And, that was that was a very rewarding experience for me, going to a country which I knew had disc golf, but I didn't know how excited they were about disc golf. And I really learned that um, it's really up and coming there. It's like you've heard Finland is huge on disc golf, Sweden, and Norway is just the same things. I don't know what's with Scandinavia. They just love it up there, and it's so cool to see. But just to see their excitement levels and help be a part of the growth, even if it was very small, was a complete honor.
The incredible host, not just the host that we've mentioned, but also Luca, like you had mentioned, so embracing, so warm. And to be fair, a lot of them are just really excited to see our superstars, yourself and Avery, who have been coming there now for a couple of years. Avery been there for the last now total 4 years. I say it all the time when I come back from a trip. We take for granted the fact that I see you almost every weekend, at a tournament somewhere in the U.S., and then players can drive anywhere from 1 to 4 hours or 6 hours to come see you. Some of these people may literally only see you once or twice in their lifetime, and so I feel like they embrace it that much more.
And I definitely feel that over there too. Just they just welcome you with open arms. It's something that's not to say that they don't do that in the States, but they get a lot more exposure to the top players. It just feels like that next level of exclusivity over there, and it's a rather addicting feeling. And I hope to experience it many more times.
Well, and that kind of actually segues to an access point, we'll call it. You, Eric, Tina, all doing a clinic in a couple of weeks. Is that what I saw down in Florida? Give us the scoop on that.
Yeah, we're doing it down in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yep. I'm headed down to that area for a rather good reason. And then I figured, okay, I'm in the area. Might as well go visit Eric and Tina. They just got a new house in Pensacola. Mm-hmm. So I'm meeting them halfway in Birmingham before going to hang out them for a few days. And we're collaborating and we're doing a clinic. Sponsors aside, we're all great friends. I was best man at Eric's wedding, so he's my best friend. Figured why not make this an opportunity to create something fun.
Now,
are they gonna have a bed for you in that house?
Eric actually texted me and he says that they bought a sofa and 2 mattresses.
Didn't say anything about bed frames, just mattresses on floor.
Hey, when you become a touring disc golfer, when you hear the word mattress, you get excited.
I know, trust me, we've done it.
Yeah, and I saw they posted today saying they bought their house. Of course, congratulations to them. And then they said that they spent a good portion of the day furniture shopping, as that's something that they haven't done before. So, and to know they're taking care of you and already worrying about you and your living arrangements when you visit, that sounds pretty friendly of them. Now, I got to back up. You had a smirk and a smile and a little excitement here. Is there what's special that's going on in Birmingham?
The clinic.
Okay, nothing else?
What's special is not in Birmingham.
Okay. Near there?
We can talk about this on a different podcast.
Okay. Is it still a disc golf related podcast, or do we have to go into a different genre of podcast?
It could probably be disc golf related.
Okay. So there's a little mystique here.
You can stretch disc golf pretty far.
All right. I
hashtag disc golf on all my posts, regardless of what they are. So
I could see anything from a photo shoot to seeing a band to some other sponsorship alignment that might be in the works. All right, I'll have to think. Okay.
You can keep guessing for a while. Huh. I like it.
A significant other of sorts?
You can keep guessing.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Well,
it could be a development of a new clothing line. He could be being featured in a magazine that somehow is
Out of Birmingham?
Yep, is headquartered out of there. Wow, what's the internet have for us? Come on, somebody's got to have a good idea here, since I apparently haven't hit on it. Huh.
We're going to leave it up to the board. And
okay, let me.
If we hear any good suggestions from the board, we will bring it up.
When will this become public? If I don't guess it here tonight, when does this endeavor, visit, function, whatever, when does this become public?
I don't have a set date.
All right. I like it. I'll take it. Nobody's coming up with any great ideas here yet, so we might circle back to that one. All right. So today, I think I also saw you outside of jumping in snow piles. Was that today you were working on your wrist? Maybe at a special someplace? I don't know. What was that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's a place in Boulder that does a bunch of different like sports therapy treatments, mostly geared towards recovery. Like they have the cryotherapy, which is basically it's submerging yourself in a minus 200-degree chamber, which is supposed to. It's a lot of cold exposure, what's basically supposed to refresh your blood and reduce inflammation. They have infrared saunas, which of course are good for your muscles, and like these compression sleeves, a bunch of other different things. And the thing that I'm using is called Aqua Roll, and it was actually developed by one of the specialists at the Miami Heat for hand injuries. What basically is, it's like this big cylinder, almost looks like a washing machine, really, and it's filled with glass beads. Put some water in there, it just turns. And all it does is just kind of massage your hand and sends blood flow to that area. I bought an unlimited membership, so I've been going in there every day. I have noticed better mobility in my hand. I'm a week in of not having the cast on. The doctor advised me to take it easy on my hand, treat it like I still have a cast, but of course I can do other treatments. And I've noticed that it's been helping a decent amount so far. And I'm just trying to be as proactive as I can on getting a good healing to, the moneymaker.
Yeah, no.
Well, from what I've seen, you don't shoot so bad with the other hand. I've been watching some videos, and you seem to be able to throw 350 lefty. Is that about right?
I could probably get around 400.
Oh, sorry. 400
lefty. But not so bad is probably accurate, but definitely not so good.
Wow.
It is very frustrating knowing what you can do with the other side of your body when you're playing left-handed. I do enjoy it. It brings up a good level of humility, and that's important. And it's also helped me gain a really important perspective about disc golf in general, realizing how good I got it on the other side of my body. But a lot of times it's not very motivating to go play. Just the only way I will go play is if it's beautiful weather and I know, okay, I look outside. When you look outside, it's disc golf weather. That's when I'll head out and throw a lefty around. But I'm definitely not going to be practicing my lefty game in 18 inches of snow.
Is it fair to say that this year, some great successes, of course, and some really solid play, but more than once, it seems as if you really learned a little bit more about yourself and maybe learned some just valuable life lessons, some valuable sports lessons, body lessons. Is this maybe your biggest year of growth yet?
Well, every year is a huge year of growth for me. Looking back in my disc golf journey, I have noticed each and every year as a progression in myself. Some years, of course, more apparent than others. So this one definitely does stick out a little bit more. Mostly on the latter half of this year, I've noticed some weird occurrences, weird thought patterns that I'm been forced to acknowledge. And so far, I feel like I have done a good job learning from them, even though it is the off season, and I haven't had the chance to take those learnings that I've had into the next season. So I don't know exactly how it will play out, but for my predictions right now, I can see next year being a lot more effective from what I've gone through this year.
Well, to follow that up, it's great to see you feel, you acknowledge that you've learning and you're growing. But as I look at 2019, you played ultimately in 25 events and you finished in the top 10 in 24 out of 25. The only, we'll say, real hiccup on there was the Estonian Open in July, which was kind of in the middle of the season. You finished 15th. Everything else was top 10 or better. You earned $40,000. Of course, that's PDGA money, sponsorship and stuff not included. Do you consider that a successful year?
I very much do. I feel, I don't know. It's so weird to talk about yourself in this regard because I don't know, like, I don't want to sound too proud, and I also don't want to put myself down too much because the numbers are great. There were some amazing moments. I had 3 1,100 rated rounds. I won, I think 7 or 8 tournaments overall.
Winter Warriors, the Memorial, the Heiserbaum Open, Beaver State, the Toonie, President's Cup. You were part of that team. And then we'll say the Rocky Mountain Women's Flex Starts. You took both of those down, and the PCS Open. So, I mean, depending on what you want to count there. I mean, a win's a win, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really big money events that you took down the win at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not too bad.
It was a great year. It's really interesting, and I've thought about this a lot. When you go back to, let's say, my 2016, 2017 seasons, yes, I was a younger player. I was less established in the sport. If I had any one of these accolades that year, that turns that year into the best year ever. But 2018, it was kind of the year where I feel like everyone kind of was still unsure about me, and I felt like I proved a lot of people wrong. Then I was getting those big wins, and everyone was super on board. And then 2019, I start off the year, I almost win Vegas, I win Memorial, and then all of a sudden, everyone's expecting me to do extremely well at every other event. And, a top 10 finish for a lot of other players is groundbreaking. Like, if someone you never heard of takes a top 10, they're immediately someone that you're thinking about on tour. It's like, wow, this is a breakout name. But if I finish, I don't know, 6th place, it's like, what was up with Eagle this weekend? And it kind of felt, I mean, this is my perspective. Excuse me. This is my perspective. And it kind of felt a little weird. Like, sometimes during the year, when I finished like 6th place or 5th place or anything around that area, it didn't really feel fulfilling. And I think that was more on me than anything because, I don't know, it's interesting because I do put a lot of work in. I do do my best out on the course, but when it's not like what I know I can do and what people are thinking I can do, it just kind of feels like I'm selling myself short. And I feel like that kind of put me in this little bit of a slow tailspin throughout the year of kind of maybe doubting myself, certain times maybe not playing as well as I should down the stretch. And things just kind of felt like they didn't matter as much, but also really matter. It's kind of weird, but I've noticed this, and it's kind of really made me think about my relationship with disc golf and how I want to play. Because I remember in 2018, it was amazing because I had this amazing off season, this amazing basically evolution of myself. And I was this happy kid who just went out there and killed it. I was having so much fun on tour. And then as soon as I put a little bit more pressure on it, there's more pressure by the fans, everyone out there, that's when I kind of maybe didn't have as much fun. And I don't want that for myself. I want to be able to go out there and be someone who you can come up to, someone that looks like they're really enjoying themselves out on tour. And that may require me being a little bit less of a psycho when it comes to my preparation, how I treat my daily routine. Like basically, I was up at 7, bed by 10, every tournament, huge regimen. And every time I felt like I slipped up a little bit, I was beating myself up for it. I mean, literally beating myself up for it, which is not something that you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You'd want to be a little bit more gentle on yourself. The disc golf tour, the road is a very kind of uncertain place. So you're going to have to roll with the punches. Like, as cliche as it is, Bruce Lee, his saying is, you got to be like water. You got to conform to every situation properly. And that's something I failed to do to a certain extent in 2019 that I'm going to work towards in 2020.
Well, no more rolling and no more punching.
Well, definitely. Foam rolling's good. Foam rolling is good.
Okay.
Well, even we've seen your tour partner, or not tour partner, but your sponsor partner Simon. We've seen him fall down and roll. Just we need the jabs and the elbows. We don't want any sort of injuries from you, Eagle, because you are one of the most exciting players out on tour. There's every time, similar to a Paul, to a Simon, to a Ricky. When you step up to a tee pad, we're not sure if we're going to see an ace or just a phenomenal shot or what we're going to see, and that's what makes this game exciting for us. And we want to be there. We want you there for all of these shots.
Yeah, and it sounds like you said, you've put some expectations on yourself, maybe some undue pressures, and just continuing to work your way through those as you grow and as a competitor.
I think, not that us particularly, but I'll use us as in the media. We also add a lot of that pressure because Eagle is like, forgive me, I'm going to say like the 3rd or 4th highest rated player in the world. Second?
Did
I undershoot it? I didn't want to overshoot it, so I didn't undershoot it. Damn.
You're good. You're good.
Second highest player in the world. And so anything other than a top 3, we all listen to ourselves and all the podcasts. Everyone's like, man, Eagle took 6th this week.
Yeah,
what happened?
Yeah.
Like you said. And it's like, no, sometimes other players just shoot really freaking well. Like, that's not anything to be you're
upset about or disappointed in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. And we have to do it from a media standpoint. And as a player, I can understand how that would be the undue pressure it would put on you. And I don't know how I would react in that position other than to never listen to another person.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And me talking right now is almost therapeutic in a sense. I don't know what exactly it is. Maybe it's because I'm young. But with disc golf, it's very interesting being in the position that I am, being this pseudo celebrity in a certain circle, and then coming like back home, traveling around, and like sometimes people know exactly who you are, other times people don't care who you are. It's almost like a little bit of an identity crisis. So I don't certain times I don't know what version of myself I should be, and that kind of conflicts with some of my thoughts. And I don't know if other players find this, but I imagine they do, because it's interesting being in front of all these people taking so much criticism for throwing frisbees. It definitely makes you, I'm not going to say crazy, but that's, for lack of a better term, crazy.
It's ridiculous. It really is. It's unfortunate, and we see it time in and time out. There's There's just this unnecessary, unfounded hate or dismissal that can happen. Some people, you're simply beating people that other people might like. Whatever the case is, people have all these own inadequacies with themselves. So of course, it's easy just to project and, be a jerk to you because they can.
It sucks, but it's part of becoming a real sport.
Yeah.
Like that is, everything from people, when someone on the NFL does not perform well, people rag on them. Like, you hurt my fantasy football team. You hurt my team's chances of making the playoffs. And it's with Twitter and social media, it's a direct attack.
Yeah. It's
like that. At least they might not feel that way as on one side, but the person receiving that's a direct attack. And with as small of a community as we are, we're not talking about
the access is quicker.
The access is so much quicker and smaller, with the fact that I might message Eagle and be like, "Oh man, Eagle, I can't believe you did X, Y, and Z." Well, guess what? In 3 weeks, I might run into Eagle on the course for whatever reason. Like, I'm never going to run into Aaron Rodgers, probably, unless you're Eagle, or I'm sorry, unless you're Ricky, who just runs into him randomly. But these are things that our sport is really coming to terms with, and we're in a very fortunate situation where the players are so accessible. It might not always be that good. Like, we might be in a really golden period right now where in a couple of years, the pros that we cover may be tougher to cover.
We won't have all this access. Let's face it, this is going to be the highest rated podcast of all time. Number 1 and number 2 highest rated players back to back tonight.
It's true.
That's ridiculous. Now, Eagle, all of that being said, I want to follow up with just an observation on my end. We just had all that conversation about access and social media. You have taken a break. You have slowed down. Talk us through that. You're not you have a ton of fans. You've always been very direct and very in touch with them. And now sometimes it's even kind of hard to find you on social media a little bit. You're definitely do you see this slowdown? It was what I'm calling it. Do you see that indefinitely, or is that just kind of a method you're trying right now?
I think there's no better time for it than the off season. It's been a long year. It's been a lot of the year was a lot of discipline. It was very hectic, and how things went down, I kind of told myself this is unhealthy, the way I've been doing things, and I want to take a little bit of time to do what I like to do and maybe explore some things outside of disc golf. And I still am on social media, but I have deleted my Facebook other than my fan page, which is important. I check Instagram maybe 2 or 3 times a week right now, just basically giving myself a hiatus because I'm human and I want to figure out a way to keep my passion for disc golf alive, keep my growth as a person alive. And I think those methods that I've used have really helped me thus far. And you'll see me kind of pop back on a little bit more frequently, probably starting in December, January, as the season comes closer. But so far, I've really enjoyed my time keeping to myself. And I think that is important for people within the sport who devote so much time to their social media to just kind of be a person.
I couldn't agree more. And I was just going to say, it's just an interesting approach in the sense that someone like an Aaron Rodgers will use as an example, and a lot of our players will say, hey, during the on season, that's when I delete or turn off or don't post or don't do anything on social media. And then in the off season, they become more active. And right now, what you just explained, you've kind of have the opposite, which I think is great as well. Of course, I'll support whatever you think is best for your own mental health, but it's kind of an opposite approach from what we see most professional athletes do.
Yeah, I think my take on that is just the fact that when I'm in season, I have disc golf on the brain. There's so many different things happening. Discs are getting released, so that's kind of like the perfect time to go about that. But now, since there has been big news with like Paige, Drew Gibson. I honestly don't even really know what's happening since I haven't been on social media. So
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, I didn't even know Drew Gibson was really going anywhere to start.
Okay.
So
I kind of knew about Paige for a while, but you gotta keep your mouth shut.
you trust us. We know we're kind of in that same boat. Speaking of social media and Paige, one of Paige's discussion points about moving to Discraft was building her brand. And part of that is active social media. Do you feel that is an important aspect for you as a player to build your particular brand? Do you think it hurts when you step away from social media to help build your brand? I mean, you're under contract, I believe, for one more year, if I remember correctly, from last year. Do you feel like you need to push up your social media attention in order for you to be able to, we'll say, sign that big contract coming up at the end of the year?
Well, this is actually going to be some good advice for a lot of up and coming players. I know all you young players want to hit the road and play disc golf full time. That's great, but in order to be the full package, you kind of have to mix social media in with that. I know personally, I came on the scene. I was this young kid from Colorado who threw overstable discs really hard, and and people kind of like that. But then to add my own X factor, that's when I started vlogging. Other than Terry, I was kind of one of the first people to start doing vlogs on tour, and I was only, I think, 17 when I did that, and I definitely found my niche within that, and it really helped me grow my brand. And you all know that UC Maresma is like Mr. Promo social media guy, always trying to figure out these new marketing strategies, and that's a big reason why we collaborate so well, is because we share a lot of the same visions. Even though I haven't been posting on social media all that much, I still post once a week. I try to give stories, so it's not like I'm non-existent. And I definitely plan to have a good posting schedule and a good way to interact with my fans, because ultimately that is very important to show that you do care. So yeah, there's really no doubt that I'm going to be staying on top of posting, social media, vlogging, all that. It's just right now I feel the need to just take a small step back for a little bit to recharge my battery.
Contract, again, we just talked about Paige and all of that. Give everyone just the official update. Where are you in terms of what your contract looks like, years, so on and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I signed a 2-year contract with Discmania, and I'm 1 year through that. So I have 1 more year to go, and I'll say it right now. I imagine I'm almost 99.9999% sure that I'll be re-signing with Discmania.
Oh, don't say that. You're giving away bargaining power. Come on, Eagle, hold it back.
I've said it. The only way I'm not with Discmania is if I stop playing disc golf.
Wow, that is...
Sounds like a quote. Somebody's going to steal that, make it a story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
mean, that's great.
It's a bold statement. I hope UC hears that.
UC doesn't listen to us.
As your new manager, I highly suggest you take that back and you say that right now it's very early in the season. And
you are postulating.
There's a lot of things on the table. We'll really have to see what this upcoming season brings you. And
dang it. That was so bad. The mirror got me.
That's hilarious. No, seriously, no. That's awesome. Of course, there's fans on the board right now that are very excited about that, and I think it's great. I've got Of course, I have no input or matter on that whatsoever, but great to hear that. To me, what that really signifies more than anything is there's a trust between you and UC and the brand, and there's just an overall great partnership that's there, and you're finding it to be lucrative and beneficial, assuming they're finding it to be the same. That's great. I think that's awesome. So
Yeah, it kind of pushes beyond just a company. It's I've known UC for long enough, and I know that he likes me. He likes all the players for who they are, and I find that very comforting. Like the final round of USDGC, when I was going through my troubles with my hand, UC was there, and he was like a father in that situation, so supportive, and just knowing that he has my back when I do something really bad, and he's able to forgive me for it. That's something that speaks beyond what's on the contract, and I really do appreciate those bonds with people.
I'll switch from that to your actual father. Any plans for him this year? I know going to Europe for the first time last year. You guys made just really this awesome trip and experience out of it. It was so much more than just the golf. But any big plans for your dad and your travels this year?
Yeah, he usually likes to hit up the first little tour of the year. Excuse me. He'll play. He won't play, or he might. You never know. He'll play. He'll come to Memorial for the first week. That'll be my first event of the year. I'm going to be skipping Wintertime Open and Vegas. Mm-hmm. Spoiler.
Well, any reason? Somebody already asked that.
I don't want to sound like a snob, but Vegas isn't an NT.
Okay, that's
I want to focus. I want to put my attention into the Pro Tours, NTs, and the large scale tournaments. So that's a main reason. But yeah, my dad will come to hopefully Worlds and the Beaver State Fling, and then perhaps European Open, maybe PCS Open again. You never know. So he's usually good for maybe 3 to 4 trips a year with me.
Okay. Well, an event, and I think it's pretty much public where you're going and what you're doing after Memorial. Is that right? I don't want to harp on it too much. But that's
absolutely.
Public.
Let's talk about that.
Real quick, we'll touch on it. You're talking about as soon as Memorial is done, flying to the other side of the world and heading over to Spain, and you're going to be one of the premier players at that event. How did that come about? And does UC want to sponsor me to come cover you playing in that tournament?
You'll have to consult with Boss Man about that.
All right.
We'll call Simon.
But actually, Discmania is not really involved with that event whatsoever.
Okay.
The main reason why I'm going over there is that some of my best friends from Estonia, they actually are huge advocates of the event. They've gone. They went last year, and they said it was an absolutely incredible experience. And they rent a Spanish mansion in the countryside, and basically just a week to hang out with them and to have fun. And I saw that it will be a little bit close because I have to fly out of Phoenix to Spain, and then immediately after fly to Waco, Texas, before the Waco Charity Open. But there is a week in between, and I figured, to be the person and player I want to be, I want to go have fun and experience a different culture and hang out with some of my best friends in Europe.
Awesome. Well, it is very exciting, and hopefully, again, I was reached out to today. I'm not sure if there's anything that's going to get finalized, but one of the very first comments made about it was, "Oh, Eagle's coming and going to be doing some stuff and at the event." And again, one of those opportunities for you. I know you're not necessarily going there to grow your brand, but you having being available and that accessibility to you in yet another country, I think that's so valuable for anyone that is growing and thriving as a player.
And Spain in general isn't a country we hardly hear anything about in the disc golf world.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of, Colorado's an amazing state, but 18 inches of snow isn't all that ideal. So it could be a potential scout for a potential place to live in the future.
Wow.
I do love Europe, but I know Finland's a little bit too dark and cold, and Spain's kind of seems pretty nice.
So let's back up. Let's put these pieces together. We've got Eagle may or may not have a significant other that he's found, and now he's talking about places to live on other sides of the world. I
would say all I've said is completely unrelated.
Okay.
This is just how my brain works. It's organized in a lot of different places, but also completely scattered.
Don't worry, I'll just make up stuff in between. So they're asking, the crowd, the fans, everyone's talking. Vlogmas, I mean, I know that kind of just counters what you're saying about taking some time off. When might everyone expect to see you in vlog mode again? Not till possibly the actual play of the year gets started, the beginning of the play, whatever. Or are we going to see something this winter?
It'll be before that. There's a very small chance Vlogmas happens. That's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
It's 24 days of videos in a row. Maybe you can't call it Vlogmas if you don't vlog every day. But then I'll try to vlog.
Vlonica.
Maybe
just 12 days.
That's still too much. Still too much. I'll probably throw a few different videos out there in December. I can't say anything again, but there are some cool things happening in December. So you will be seeing some of me and some other familiar faces.
Okay, I love a few teasers. I love it. All right, Eagle. Is there anything else that we didn't pry about? Is there anything else though that you want to share before we wrap it up and let you go here tonight?
How can people out there support you, sponsors, all that other good jazz?
Yeah, the best way to support me is basically anything on the Discmania website. Just represent the Shield. It's an awesome brand. And a little teaser that something really cool is coming in the mystery boxes. Ooh. Yeah, it's going to be great. So keep an eye out for that.
All right, mystery boxes, and those are available how soon?
See, I haven't been in the loop on social media, so I have a hard time knowing. I haven't been in the loop on my email, so
wow.
it's. I'm like
smitten.
I'm kind of like a hermit right now.
Huh. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna find out more. One way or another, we'll pry as deep as we need.
I got to keep people guessing.
Yeah, I like that plan as well. All right, Eagle. Well, I want to say thank you. It was awesome. 2 of your 3 biggest paychecks of the year, you and I were, rooming together. So I'm not going to say I'm your good luck charm, but okay. Huh? But anyway, it has been a lot of fun. And thank you again for doing the commentary. I know you were so gracious with your time and that you really enjoy doing that. So thanks for that. And
of course,
thanks for giving us all kind of the scoop where things are at right now here as we close out 2019. And we're certainly looking forward to another successful year, and hopefully you can do as well or top it in 2020. And we'll probably talk sometime before the year kicks off.
Yeah, I appreciate Terry, Johnny. Always love to be on. And, if you need me, just hope that I'm not going through a social media purge.
Yeah, just don't delete Skype and we'll be okay.
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
else is all right.
Skype hasn't done anything wrong.
All right. Have a good night, Eagle. Appreciate it.
All right.
See ya. Take
Later,
care.
guys.
Good night to your father as well. See ya. All right. Eagle McMahon teasing a few things, leaving a few, hints and dropping a few hints out there. We didn't crack him, though.
We didn't.
That's what you're saying.
No, and you're not very good at connecting the dots. I'm just saying, if there's like 1 through 50, you're done on the paper and you look, it's a brush fire. And on the back, you turn it over. No, it's supposed to be a penguin, Terry. Like, just, you go wherever you want with your dots. I don't buy it.
Sometimes you gotta, I don't know if he was leading us down a trail or if he's leaving crumbs and I have to, make the trail myself. Whatever. I'll put it together. And even if it's not right, we'll just say that it is.
And I had thought that Eric Oakley had posted something about them going to Tampa as well. I think, or maybe it was just Eric and maybe it wasn't Eagle as well. But I thought I'd read something about them going to Tampa.
I don't know, but they're out there buying houses. Disc golf rich.
They are. They did just buy a
Oakleys.
house. The Oakleys bought a house down in Pensacola.
Yep.
They did not use my company
to close the
do
title.
The closing.
Oh my! All that discount you could have got them.
Not much discount, but still, look at minor, very, very minor. Either way, they probably didn't have a very good closing.
No, how could they?
They couldn't have if they did not use the company that I work for. That lets me occasionally skip out to do random podcasts,
other things, and other work.
I mean, what can I do? Either way, I'm happy for them. I'm glad they've got themselves a place now. I think they're going to be doing Airbnb during the season in order to kind of make that not so much of a revenue loss.
Yeah, well, and of course you got to give anyone credit, large or small, doesn't matter. Making that investment into some kind of a home, especially when you're living on the road as much as they are. I think it's awesome to see them make that investment into their future, and hopefully it turns out to be maybe it's a net gain or a net break even for them when it's all said and done. Maybe they make a few bucks, maybe they lose a few bucks, but still seeing them make that initial investment, I think, is awesome, and great to see our disc golf family growing up, buying houses.
It made me chuckle when he was like, so long ago I was just 17, and I'm like, dude, that was like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
like you were on SmashBoxx 4 years ago at the GBO, and or was that Worlds?
GBO.
It was GBO, and
he was
really making that big run. I'm like, come on.
Those big breakouts. I think he turned 21 right here on the show.
He did.
Or 18?
He did.
18 or 21, whatever. He's been with us plenty.
We love
not
having
enough,
him.
but we love having him. So again, thank you. All right, so let's run down maybe some other things that were or were not in the disc golf news before we head into an after show where things get a little wild. There's been some requests for after show conversation already. Usually that doesn't happen. So people want to know about some other random things that aren't disc golf related. So that will come in the after show. But what else have you seen out there in the social medias?
There hasn't been a lot. A lot of the talk right now is still Paige Pierce and her changing of sponsors. I watched a little bit of yesterday. Jeremy Rusko did his, I believe it's like a monthly checkup with DD, and he just real briefly addressed it and had said more or less the company line of we were hoping to grow and continue with Paige and that. But he also did hint, and Bobby surprisingly wouldn't let him say anything about another signing that they have lined up. So I'm excited to be able to talk more about that in the future.
Was it talked about in the sense that it's happening and we can't talk about it yet, or it's still fully in the works?
It wasn't quite.
Or was it not even that clear for either of those?
I don't know if it was that clear for either. Rusko brought up talking about new signings, and Bobby pretty much shut him down. And it was probably for best for Rusko. But
I don't know. I like it when he spills the beans.
No, it's best. Rusko is best. Usually one night a week at GBO, you find him whichever night it is, have a few drinks in him. That's one of my favorite Ruskos. And when he's just a little bit loose-lipped and he's talking about whatever, and you can sit and
friendly. He lets out the hugs a little.
He does like to let out the hugs at the GBO, and I don't blame him.
And I am the first guy to take them.
I take them.
Yeah, a few Bud Lights. And that guy's ready to.
So I'm excited to hear what DD has up their sleeve for the future.
Okay. Well, stay tuned. I have a feeling we wouldn't quite get the scoop on that as opposed to DD releasing it first, but
I don't know.
A little piece of feedback we did see that doesn't make any sense. So we thought we'd bring it to light, maybe possibly shame the moron. Someone complained. In fact, now I'm hearing this secondhand, right? Did I hear it right that someone complained that we were immediately right on top of having an interview with Paige Friday,
like
moments after she made her announcement? Someone was somehow upset about the fact that we covered that?
There was one of the boards that I'm a part of, and someone had posted something about how we snaked our way into an interview on the biggest news story of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's one of those things that just made me chuckle, and I got just a big kick out of it, thinking like, well, that's kind of our job. That's what we do. And at first I thought like, well, I guess somebody else could have, and I thought, well, no, there's Ultra World that talks about it, but as far as live disc golf podcasts for news, we're the only one. Like
anyone that's going to come to you live and instantly, if there's anyone that's going to do it,
that's what we do. And so it didn't make any sense to me when I was reading it, and a lot of people in this thread were just kind of ripping on the comment like, this guy's a moron, and I got a good chuckle out of it. I got to read it right before bed, and it made me laugh, and I slept really well.
Well, as said on the board, how dare you score a timely interview?
I know.
And I know I said it a little bit earlier, just the fact that we were excited that Paige thought that was a great idea. We're super flattered and honored that she would kind of, I don't want to call give it us an exclusive, but the fact that she would do it so timely and so quickly because it was a Friday, and I know she had a lot of things in the works, and we just thought the news would just maybe roll out a little slower otherwise over a weekend, and it would get not lost, but
a little stale.
It would dilute.
A little stale. And to be fair, Paige even said when we talked to her that we talked to her on the Tuesday before, and we're like, hey, when are you going to make your announcement? She told us Friday, and we were both really disappointed. We're like, well, gosh, that's right in the middle of our week. And she even said, she's like, well, I won't talk to anybody else. I'll wait for you guys. And we're like, no, it doesn't make sense for her. It doesn't make sense for us. And that's when we kind of formulated let's just exclusive.
Friday exclusive.
the rare Friday exclusive. And that's when we formulated the plan to just do it on Friday when she announced, because we felt that was it. Because you're right, after an entire weekend of everybody, not just like the news people, but the entire population and social media just dissecting all of her speculating. This gave us and her a really good chance to just let everything that she could out. And I did see a couple people complaining, I think you said this earlier, about how she said she wanted to be as open as honest, but she couldn't tell us some things. And those things were just marketing things, really. Yeah. Those are the only things she couldn't tell us, like, hey, I want to be as open and honest as I can, but I can't tell you some things because they are future plans for marketing. That makes total sense. It's not like she was hiding anything from her past from us. That is what I think some people got confused about when she had said that, because it was almost like sentence for sentence, I want to be open, but I can't tell you everything.
Well,
and I don't blame her because they have all these plans in place, and that is part of building a brand in a company, is making sure you roll out things at the appropriate time, and that's
well, and I know it's a silly, maybe it's a silly example, but in the similar sense, just like if we would have asked her, hey, Paige, what'd you get your dad for Christmas? Like, I wouldn't expect her to tell me that. It's not the right time or the place for it. She said she'd tell us everything she could. That wouldn't include what she got. Her dad probably was watching, so
I would imagine so.
All right. Well, I don't have a heck of a lot for our regular show. I think there's a lot of other random items that can get talked about in our after show, and I hate to sound a little bit naive to this, but there's no really other better word for it. I saw a few posts from some mainly Grass Valley and or Northern California people, Greg Barsby, Jessica Weiss, her mother Sherry. A few people had made a post. There was a gentleman who I don't believe that I knew that sounds like he and maybe another gentleman, disc golfer, had passed away. So I just will say, of course, I apologize for not knowing the details, but I want to pass on. Clearly, they have impacted the disc golf community and were known. Not someone that I knew, but I saw that kind of ripple throughout Facebook. And so thoughts and prayers to if you knew them and the people involved. But when I continually see it in my feed, that's what kind of made me recognize that, something unfortunately had happened. And in a similar sense, there's a Wisconsin gentleman, Jay Joseph, a really great guy. I know his father had passed away in the last few days. So, of course, we're thinking of him as well, as he's been a long time disc golfer here in Wisconsin. So, and I some people have come in. Matthew here out on the board says prayers for Levi. So, just wanted to pass on the word that I saw it and wanted to make mention. So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to again talk about some random things in the after show, as we always do. We're going to have a giveaway. I'll give you the updates on our previous giveaways, and I think there's a lot of other stuff that's maybe or maybe not related to disc golf. So we're going to close it out. Our highest ever rated podcast, having the likes of Paul McBeth and Eagle McMahon.
Is that true? Because we've had 3 guests on before, so if you add up 3
highest
ratings,
average rating, of course.
This is the highest average rating.
However you want to call it. It was very gracious of them both to join us, and I love that so much of it wasn't just straight disc golf, and that was probably one of my favorite components of tonight's show, in talking with both Paul and Eagle. Not hardcore disc golf, and I think we're going to have a little more of that in the upcoming weeks as we are still in this off season. So this has been SmashBoxxTV Podcast 275 for Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, Paul McBeth, and Eagle McMahon. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you in the after show. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's Podcast 275 After Show. Oh, we're here, Terry Miller, disc golf guy, along with Johnny V. And yes, as Nick had just asked on the board, we are, in fact, both in Wisconsin. A little bit rainy, dreary, somewhat chilly night. Well, it's starting to turn at least on us a little bit, as we are on the eve of, well, I'll say Wednesday, which is a pretty chaotic day throughout the entire country, which obviously is just the day before Thanksgiving. Obviously, I would say Wednesday is overall, whether it's partying, traveling, planning, whatever the case is, Wednesday is far more chaotic than Thursday is here in the U.S., with Thursday being Thanksgiving. So
Wednesday is one of the biggest drinking nights of the year, because a lot of people are going back to their hometown to visit family, see, your high school friends, get together with them, kind of have a drink. So,
yeah, lots of reasons to party.
Just saying.
You just really dialed in on a specific.
That's one of
that
the
people go home to get together with high school friends to drink.
Well, that's usually
very
what
specific.
That's usually what happens. That's one of the reasons why Wednesday is this Wednesday before Thanksgiving is one of the biggest drinking nights of the year.
I'm not denying that. I
And
agree. I know.
and
but
it's because
specifically why you say that it is.
Yeah, it's because
Okay.
people tend to go back to their hometowns and they get together with friends they haven't seen. You know, whether that's high school, college, or
No,
wherever.
you said high school. It's
But
only high school.
It's probably high school, considering if it's unless you went to college in the same city you grew up in, but it's more than likely high school friends.
Well, be safe, of course. That's what we'll go ahead and
Yes.
follow that up and say be safe to everyone out there, and hopefully you have a good Thanksgiving. For those who are somehow not familiar, our after show always consists of a lot of interaction that comes off of the YouTube chat board. So if there's something you want to share with us, questions that you have, clarifications, or whatever it might be, the YouTube chat board is the best place to do it. Usually we are streaming also to Facebook Live. Unfortunately, that goes largely ignored throughout the entire evening, other than just putting out the video. So if you're interacting with us there, unfortunately, we aren't probably seeing it. We should dedicate you to Facebook and me to YouTube, or vice versa.
There's actually with the
Or
one of the
just
applications.
take it off YouTube or Facebook. I think that would make more sense personally.
I like it on Facebook. We don't have to interact. That can be just but there is actually a chat option that we have that will bring in all the chats into one location.
Oh my! Well, get on it.
Too lazy. I don't want to
Click two buttons.
Well,
to make that
then we
happen?
have to monitor a separate area. I don't know.
You're saying it doesn't integrate into this chat?
No, it
Oh,
doesn't.
it goes
It would be a
somewhere else.
separate. It would be like you and I would see a separate chat with it all
Well,
in
yeah.
it. I mean, the YouTube people wouldn't see it. The Facebook people wouldn't see it. We would see them all integrated into one particular area.
I would like that. Well,
I'll look around. I'll see what I want to do.
all right. So reading off the board, I'll do a little bit of that before we catch up with some other odds and ends. Ace Run Productions coming in with the super chat, coming in hot.
Oh, thank you.
$10
Ace Run.
super chat saying they have nothing constructive to add. Just wanted to support the cause. We really, really appreciate that. Thank you guys. If you haven't gone out, make sure you like and subscribe to Ace Run. They've been out there hustling around trying to get fresh content, make it available. I know I saw them recently have all of the next-gen footage produced and available, and no one was working harder. I wasn't working harder than them. Joe Mez wasn't working harder than them. Dave Felberg was not. No one was working harder than Ace Run during that weekend. So hats off to them for the next-gen coverage. Thank you, guys.
Ray has I consider this more of a philosophical question. I wonder what the effects would be if Jomez declined to cover MPO and instead opted to cover FPO for...
Go on.
I'm just, again, this is a philosophical question. What would happen to FPO? Would the FPO coverage, would we see a growth in the FPO game? I mean, you want to take a step back and you can easily say, okay, they're going to get 60% of their views. They're going to, the growth of the channel will I don't want to say cease, but it will definitely, that will definitely slow down. But would it be advantageous for the FPO side of the game with the
Yes.
the size of the size of their channel right now? If they dedicated and said, no, this year we're dedicating to grow the FPO, and our goal, we're going to take a loss, let's just say, because the sponsorship, if the views aren't there as much, the sponsorship isn't going to be quite as there, or not what they could ask for. Because the funny thing is, if most channels, let's take yourself or CCDG, cover an FPO event, let's just say it gets 30,000 views, 20,000, 30,000 views. When Jomis covers the FPO, it gets 50, 60, 70,000 views for a big event. In theory, they should be able to ask sponsors for what they were asking sponsors for MPO a year or two ago, when their MPO was getting 40, 50, 60,000 views. Because really, who cares what the content is? It's about the views, in theory. So the sponsors should be should be willing to give them the same thing they gave them a year and a half ago or 2 years ago for the MPO coverage. So whether that's $2,000 a weekend, $3,000, I don't know what the advertising rates are on Jomez's channel, but it would be an interesting experiment.
Let me answer the very initial point of, would it grow, depending on how you phrase it, would it grow the women's side? You're absolutely right. Their channel, at the rate in which their subscriber base has been, I'll say skyrocketing, has been trending upward. It would still, of course, trend upward. It would do so at a slower rate. I can all but guarantee that. Would it provide more exposure for the FPO field and division? That's a no-brainer. Of course, tons of exposure. Would the game itself, which is going to be the toughest thing to truly measure, would the game itself benefit the FPO side of things? That's, of course, tough to say. With those other two things, not just those other two things, with more exposure, you would think that the game itself would grow. Now, as amazing as Jomez is, there is no magic pill or formula that says, hey, if they dedicated a whole year of coverage, we're going to go from a 10% participation rate of women in disc golf to a 12 or a 14 or an 18%. No one has that silver bullet, that magic pill,
Correct,
to get us to have that much of a significant jump. However, it would certainly benefit the women's game directly and indirectly if they had efforts that were dedicated exclusively to FPO coverage. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're that impactful and they do such a good job. There is no question about it.
We're not saying they should. We know clearly they'd be leaving a ton of money out on the table by doing that. And that's not the that doesn't make much business sense for them. And no one can blame anybody for saying, for not doing that. That is not
yeah, of course. I'm not suggesting that. I was answering the question at hand here.
Just saying on some of the posts on the board that we've seen. So, but mine was more of a philosophical question with the size of their reach, and could they spur an influx of measurable growth in the female side of the game? And maybe you couldn't do it after 1 year. Maybe that would be like a 3-year endeavor, and again, nobody expects them to do this, but they say, oh, cool, MPO, that's growing fine. We're going to grow FPO. And maybe they can in the future. Maybe they can have a second team that has FPO coverage that then goes on their channel, or however that works. But ultimately, it is, it's not going to happen, but it would be kind of cool. It would be a cool experiment.
Yeah, and
but there's a lot of cool experiments.
Yeah, I was going to say, and also for me, at the end of the day, it always comes back to, I think, it always comes back to, I'm in no position or at any liberty to say what any other team should be doing. That's one of my favorite lines favorite line that I love to hate in disc golf is when people say, what you should do. I'm in no position to tell them whatsoever or make any suggestions for what they should do. They clearly have a very good working model that has helped them grow and be very successful. And they've done so many amazing things and will continue to do so many amazing things. Whatever their business model is just that, their business model. So, and Daryl's asking on the board, isn't Central Coast getting FPO? Yes, Central Coast, as far as we know, has been locked in for the national tour for lead card. That was announced a few weeks ago via the PDGA. They're locked in for lead card coverage. Again, the question that was brought up on here was very philosophical and hypothetical.
And I only asked that because I think Central Coast has like 80,000 subscribers, 80 to 90,000, something like that. Jomez has like 150 to 160,000. So their percentage of views will go down with FPO, as everybody's does, but their percentage is still bigger than what some of the other crews are getting for MPO. So sure. It's an interesting philosophical question that way.
Reading also off the board, Nick is asking about any way you guys could let people know that we are looking for sponsors for the 2020 U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships in May, and they are interested, they should send him a message. That's NICKAS 78. You can find him on on YouTube here. Just thought I'd ask. Have a great Thanksgiving. You as well, Nick.
In general, sponsors, if there are sponsors listening to this and the USWDGC is looking for sponsorship, please go out there, reach out to the event. I'm sure you'll get Nick at some point and be a sponsor for the FPO division, or just the event, not even just FPO, but for that entire event.
Speaking of sponsors, how exciting this weekend. I want to again thank RPM Discs out of New Zealand. I got the chance to check out their facility. I visited in Auckland, New Zealand, almost exactly a year ago, to not quite to the day, but pretty close. And coincidentally, a few of our favorite PDGA superstars, Sean Sinclair, along with Sarah Sinclair, are in New Zealand as we speak. And did I see that they were flying into or near Auckland as well? Maybe they're going to go check out RPM. But RPM, again, title sponsor this weekend. We're going to be giving away a pair of RPM discs along with RPM shirt and a few other things. Tonight's giveaway for our Patreon subscribers is going to be an RPM shirt. And what I'll do is after this weekend, we'll double check exactly what size it is that you need as our winner, and we'll get it out to you. So I also wanted to throw a quick comment out there that I'm pretty caught up on our Patreon giveaway. So I know every week we have a drawing. Sometimes a couple weeks build up, and then I'll get them all sent out at once. There is one international one I have to double check on, and then I think there's another one where I maybe need an address. But outside of that, relatively caught up on our Patreon giveaways. As always, though, if you are owed something or you want to give away and you haven't received it, please do not hesitate. You're not bothering us. Please make sure to send us a message, and we'll make sure to get it out to you. All right, Matthew asks, will there be live coverage for the US WDGC? That's a good question, Matthew. A few weeks ago, we're going to say, the PDGA did ask us to put together a proposal of sorts, or maybe an estimated budget or estimate, whatever you want to call it, with regard to the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships. We did it for that, and I believe we did it for the final NT of the year. We submitted that as requested. We have heard no follow-up whatsoever to that proposal or bid that we offered, or whatever you want to call it, estimate that we offered. We have not heard anything in regard back to that with regard to that. So I think I butchered that nicely. We've heard nothing. Ryan says, I could bring yours gift. Yes, Ryan Pilcher is going to be helping out this weekend, and you have a Patreon gift coming your way, and I will be bringing it this weekend. You're exactly right. Has the end-of-year Patreon disc been announced? They have not. So that's still a secret. It's like Eagle McMahon's keeping secrets. That's still a secret. So you're going to have to wait on that one. JVD, have you been watching Watchmen? Ray wants to know.
I have not been watching Watchmen. I watched the very first episode, and I enjoyed it. It was really good, and I'm waiting to binge it. I truly am, because there are a few other shows that I'm watching, like The Mandalorian and all the silly CW things that are hopefully ending this year. And just I have a Mr. Robot. I had a plethora of things on my plate, and I looked at it and went, "Gosh, I can avoid this one for now." It's going to be one that I will watch, probably closer to when the season ends. So maybe I'll wait till like the season finale, kind of get through a majority of them at that point, and then I'll watch it. I've heard it's really good, but yeah, I haven't been watching it. Been loving The Mandalorian, though. I've been watching that with my son. He's getting a good kick out of it. I enjoy it. This last episode, if there is a worst of the three, then that would be it. But I mean, that's like saying which is worse, vanilla, chocolate, or swirl. I mean, it's all good. But this one, I didn't quite enjoy as much as the other two, and everybody's loving Baby Yoda. It's it's cute beyond belief.
Yeah, and it certainly has made its way onto Facebook
Everything.
and memes and everywhere else. Yeah,
Yes.
it's funny.
That you even
didn't-
know.
Well, and then I was just gonna say what's really funny is I didn't know where it came from. Obviously, now it makes sense that that's where it's coming from
Mhm.
as I'm seeing it everywhere. But I never once thought, oh yeah, that's probably coming out of the Disney because
The new
that's
Disney
how much I've
Mandalorian.
paid attention.
Oh, that makes sense.
Unfortunately, so now that has been put together for me. So thank you for that. And then that's coming out weekly. So is it?
It is coming out
It's a-
weekly.
I mean, are you going to see 10 or 20 or 30 episodes or like what? What's
8 to 10, I believe.
and what's the premise of that?
All right, if you
For
haven't
someone that
watched,
has no
a
idea.
little spoiler action here.
Okay.
Just a little bit. The Mandalorian are we'll just say, a race of warriors. And this guy is a bounty hunter. And so he was sent out on a bounty to, which he didn't know what it was, just said it was something that was, someone that was 50 years old. And he found where the bounty was, and it turns out it is a Baby Yoda.
Oh.
And Yodas who live apparently to be like 800 years old, 50 is still relatively young for them. And so he, that's the premise of the story. So now he has this Baby Yoda. What does he do with it? Does he bring it back to the people who paid him for the bounty because it's a baby? Does he keep it? What does he do? That is where the premise of the movie or the TV series starts. And they're 3 episodes in, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit.
Okay.
So
clearly, I mean,
I know
lots of people are obviously enjoying it.
It's really
it
good.
is-
Like
it's taken over. I mean, when there's conversation taking place about series and shows, that is the one that is obviously just dominating the social media cycles, so to
it's
speak.
the best thing Star Wars has done in probably 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
It's that good. It's better than
Oh, but make a bold statement here. It's better than what, Johnny? Because someone just said that you're high. The 3rd episode was the best one yet. So you already have a disagreement.
Here's what I'll say about the third one. I didn't love the ending. And again, I don't want to get too spoilery here, but the save the day thing where what happens, I didn't quite dig that. Up until that point, I thought it was getting pretty good, and then I was like a little like, oh, all right. Like, and again, that's like still really, really good. I mean, it's like, do you want,
Okay.
gummy bears or sprinkles, man? It's good. That was the one part I was kind of like, okay, I guess. But I look forward to it every week, and it's fun. The other thing I've been doing almost nightly is reading to my son. We read a chapter or 2 in a book, and we're reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Normally, for the past 6 months, my wife basically has read. We read to him just because it's good family time. He just read himself the whole Hunger Games series. He's 10 years old, and I wasn't sure if we should even let him read the Hunger Games series with as dark as it can be. But he likes to be read to at night for a few minutes. So I said, hey, let's read a nice geeky book. And so we picked Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We're 6 or 7 chapters in, and he's really getting a huge kick out of it.
Totally. Well, I'll make my own segue here, as you
That's
said
fine.
I like to do. No, what I was going to go, we'll stick with sci-fi-ish.
Yep.
Big talk also in the last few days, in a totally different realm, though. The Cybertruck, Elon Musk. Did you consume any of the hoopla, the hubbub?
I didn't watch the reveal.
Okay.
Clearly, I've seen everything after.
Mhm.
They're going to redo the competition between the Cybertruck
Ford.
and the Ford F-150 because it was apparently only a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder or something. I don't know exactly.
Yep.
It is ugly,
Okay.
but again, me personally, that if I needed a truck, that wouldn't matter to me. I always kind of got a kick out of people who, we live in Wisconsin. I think the F-150 is the best-selling vehicle in Wisconsin. I think it's the best-selling vehicle in the nation, but our state particularly, it's the best-selling vehicle in our state. So we see a lot of them. They're sold as this, rugged, do anything you want with them and this and that. And yet we have a friend of ours who he calls it his show truck, where he's like, oh no, we can't drive that one because that's the show truck. And I'm like, it's a truck. It's meant to be used, abused, hauled, toss things in and out. Like it's kind of that, you don't want to like smash it up, but it's, whatever. And so for me, the aesthetics of a truck means so little to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's utilitarian, and I get that. And that is how I would treat it if I were to need a truck. I saw Ben Askren already signed up for one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he posted that out there. And I've seen a lot of cool, funny things with like people putting fake vinyl on the truck. There's pictures right now, but how 80s or 8-bit can you make it look?
Sure.
And all these really funny things. So I'm going to get a kick out of it. But me personally, not a truck person in general, have so little use for one, but the aesthetics don't bother me.
Yeah, it's clearly been polarizing, as is the moment I mentioned it. There's one of the first comments in was people talking about just how ugly it is. And I'm going to go ahead and say I feel like, to me, and I'm not a truck guy myself, I own a Honda Element, which some people would classify as a truck. I really personally don't. Some people would. It definitely is functional, or maybe more so than some trucks that I've seen. But I also have the notion of, I initially thought the Scions and the Cubes and the Elements were incredibly ugly, and then at some point they grew on me, which is funny. And I kind of felt when I first saw that, same thing with this Cybertruck. I remember thinking, well, like everyone else, you have to immediately have this like, like, are you serious kind of notion?
I don't.
And now I've like you said, if you're going after it for function, what difference does it really make? But it definitely stands out.
I still look at the Element and the Scion, and I think, like, that's not a pretty car. It's utilitarian. Like, it for what you wanted it for when you were doing tournament stuff and hauling discs and traveling, it made all the sense in the world. Like, I know you don't do nearly as much of that now, and so it doesn't make as much sense, but I don't think you should go out and get a different car. But I don't look at that car and go, yeah, like that's a sexy looking car. That's a sweet looking car. I look at it and go, okay, that does its purpose. That's a purpose-driven vehicle. There are cars that are not meant to be purpose-driven vehicle. There are sports cars and those, my boss, I got to ride in it just the other day. He dropped me off here at home. He has a 2018 Jaguar that it's gorgeous. And I think he'd said there's only 2 of that particular color in the entire state or something, whatever. And so he dropped me off at home. It's a great looking car, but there's no back seat. I barely fit in the front seat. Like, that's great. He has a fancy car. It doesn't work for me because I have 2 kids, and there's no way that is ever going to be a thing.
Fancy all day with that.
I'm just saying. So, and I'm not a car person in general. So,
well, and then of course some of the hype, and I don't mean to beat this to death, but yeah, then seeing, it was funny to see with the hype around it, and then one of the test elements was throwing this steel ball at the windshield and the windows that cracked, and then the next day he kind of explained why they thought that happened and everything else. It was just interesting for me to see someone with a presentation, and then you do that on stage. Clearly that's not what was supposed to happen. Just like I felt like kind of like, on the inside. And that would be said of anyone.
It's the biggest fear, public speaking, and then having something go wrong.
Yeah, it was really, really crazy to see that. So certainly polarizing is one of the best terms that I saw for it. And nothing for nothing. I give it to Elon and Tesla as much as I give it to him for the innovation and what they continue to do. It's certainly incredible. You can question some of his management styles, some of his work ethic, some of the things he says, shareholders, those types of things. But I give it to him for going out and getting stuff done.
Yeah, I really like the Model X. I really like the Model 3. I really like the Model S. Like, they're all great looking vehicles. I'd love to have a Model 3 myself, but I've spec'd them out, and they're the one that I would get is like $55,000 or $65,000.
Sure,
that's just a little out of my budget right now.
I don't know. We did just land that Disc Golf Pro Tour contract.
Oh, that's right. Can I write that off? Is that a
yeah,
SmashBoxx
we
expense?
should get matching ones. Then, and
Listen,
on the license
Jeff.
plate, yours says Smash and mine says Box on the back. So we'll have.
Listen, Jeff. I mean, we could fly to these events, but really, matching Teslas, that's really the way to go.
I think we are onto something. I definitely like that idea. All right, Dan asks on the board. Dan is asking. I didn't swear there, I swear. He said, why is Vegas Challenge not a national tour? And large in part, and I'm not going to beat it to death, but it's talked about throughout the last few months. Large in part, they didn't want the national tour. Jeff Jacqua, who's the tournament director, did not want to adhere largely to the media policy that the national tour is implementing for this year. That is one of the main reasons why we are seeing them. And that policy also extends in terms of the national tour into a registration purpose as well. One thing that Jeff Jacqua has done for years is if you are a sponsor of a certain level, that essentially can help guarantee you a position also into the event ahead of time. That's actually been somewhat of a common practice for tournaments, right, wrong, fair, indifferent, whatever. It's been something that's happened for many years at a lot of tournaments, and that's something they also wanted to continue doing. And then also the media rights and policy for this year has changed up. I haven't seen a copy of it. I don't know why I would. I'm some guy that I guess doesn't get to see that. But the media policy has one of the statements in there is just along the lines of that for the national tour, the PDGA is essentially in full control of it and takes away some of the control that the organizing committee has had in the past. And Jeff, who has very much aligned himself with Innova for 20 plus years, I believe, did not want to give up those types of, he didn't want to make those concessions. Yeah, so withdrew from being on the national tour. So I guess, as eloquent or not, that's what went down.
And I've heard some rumors, and these are truly just rumors, that there might be live coverage at Vegas this year.
That would be cool. Are we doing it?
No, not us.
Okay. Didn't know. Okay.
The Innova, who, the company that did USDGC, Fulcrum, I heard there might have been some talks about that. And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. It's still very early. But don't be shocked if you hear that. Or be shocked and say, oh, damn, that's right. I heard that on SmashBoxx a few months ago.
Johnny V's so cutting edge. Always knows ahead of time.
Talk to a lot of people.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, that would be great.
That would be really cool. And it'll be interesting to see the turnout that Las Vegas gets. I mean, tonight we had Eagle on, and he said, I'm not going because it's not a national tour. And snobbish, spoiled, whatever I forget the exact words that he said.
He said he didn't want to sound
that
snobby.
He didn't want to be called. But some of these pros are going to be looking at that. It's a long season, and adding another big, long event at the very beginning, some of these pros are going to be like,
Yeah, and I'm going to go on record and say I believe it's going to sell out. I think it's en route to that right now. The registration has been going along quite well. In fact, I was going to try and get to it quickly to make reference. They put out a great infographic, I think yesterday or the day before, showing where all the players are coming from. They have a really nice infographic is really the best term. They currently have 472 players. Now, I'm not sure what they are considering full capacity, but I would have to assume, well, actually, I could probably find out in just a moment for you. No, it doesn't look like I can. So they don't have it necessarily marked that way. But as of right now, 480 3 registered, 470, somewhere in that neighborhood. They've got a few additional registrations for mini events and for
85
spectator
on the waiting list.
passes. Okay, so it does say 85 on the waiting
And
list.
that could be specific divisions. That's
exactly what
you know,
it is.
the open field might still have open players available, whereas the Masters field is sold out. Whatever amateur fields
looks like,
are sold out. Who knows how it works?
Well,
They could be saving more spots for FPO things,
and
like
they are doing exactly that. I know they have reserved. I think they started with 50 FPO spots, and they said we are reserving these until a certain time frame. If by this deadline there's a certain amount of spots that aren't taken, they're going to give them over to the MPO field, and they'll continue to filter them over depending on the availability. But right now there's 17 on the MP40 waiting list. There's 6 on the MP50. And then there's a bunch on various amateur sides as well in terms of different waiting lists. So I do really want to know how many. I'm going to quickly try and backtrack. I'm just curious to know the exact count of FPOs. There are 99 MPOs currently registered. So
31 of those are 1,000+ rated.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's a
and there
boast.
are currently 15 FPO players registered. So 15 FPOs. Including the likes of, as I'm looking at some of our highest rated, I see Katrina Allen, Evelina Salonen, Henna Blumros, Jessica Weiss. Those look like to be your top rated females that are registered. Not seeing Paige Pierce on that list. Not seeing Sarah Hokum on that list.
No
Jennifer
Tatar.
No Kristen Tatar. No Jennifer Allen on that list. No Haley King on that list. Again, there's still spots available on that FPO side, but they're going to continue to dwindle if those spots aren't consumed by the women. So very accommodating and generous of them to do that. There's nothing more that a tournament can do other than saying, hey, we are reserving 50 spots. An event of this level, that would make it one of the largest FPO fields if it was sold out at 50, making it 50 spots, and then saying, okay, we have till certain deadlines, otherwise they're going to continue to go away. So very, very cool to see. Rebecca Cox, I don't believe I saw on that list, but Rebecca Cox did
Go ahead.
Did get a new travel vehicle. She is
doing van life?
Selling or giving away her van, whatever she's doing with the van, the minivan that she had, and now she is going to more of I'll call it a Sarah Hokum, Paige Pierce,
Sprinter van.
Yeah, Nate Perkins Sprinter style van. So best of luck on that build out.
I'm wondering if the Vegas event, which is obviously no longer an NT, has something to do with it, but also because it is so heavily Innova sponsored, if some of the other players are they're like, well, I wonder if that plays into it at all. The major sponsor behind that event being Innova, that you don't see Paul McBeth, Paige Pierce, maybe some of the bigger Innova players support that particular event. If that, and maybe it doesn't, maybe it's just that it's not an NT, maybe the sponsor really truly has nothing to do with it.
I'm guessing the sponsor doesn't. I just feel like our players are buckling up for 11 Pro Tour events and for 6 National Tour events. And they're going to fill in weekends in between, of course. We know they're going to. But that's 17 plus Worlds, plus US DGC, plus a US Women's. So they're if they played all of the biggest events, they're already at 20 weekends. And so when you go to Vegas, which could have 75 and sunny, it could have 35 and snow like last year, not likely, but could have 35 degrees with 45 mile an hour winds, and it's 4 days. And it's 4 days just leading into kicking off the Disc Golf Pro Tour a few days later over in Phoenix, Scottsdale. I hate to see it, but I think it's all but obvious that you're seeing them just conserve themselves for one more week, not play in a 4-day event, to then turn around and play in another 4-day event. But I guess we shall see. And yes, Rebecca Cox is on the list. I apologize. She was right in front of me. Nick asks, what positives or negatives, if any, do you see coming from the big sponsor changes like McBeth and Pierce? I just see it as proof of the value of the athletes. Good for visibility to bigger companies. There's definitely drawbacks. I mean, the positives are obvious. Well, some of them.
I think
there's plenty of positives, but I think there's drawbacks. Depending on who you are.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, is one of the positives that you think, as the old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats? Do you think that this will help push up player sponsorship, player salaries? Or are these truly outliers? I mean, Paul McBeth's a unicorn. He is one of a kind. Paige Pierce is as close to that as you can get in FPO, but not quite there, I would say. She's a 5-time world champion. She has earned everything that she is going to be getting or has been given. But she still doesn't have the sway and the push that a Paul McBeth does. Nobody in our sport does.
He's proven that.
Period. Do we really think that this is going to lift all salaries, or is this, like I said, or are sponsors going to look at them and be like, yeah, that's them. Guess what? Let me check my spreadsheet. Oh yeah, you're not worth that.
Yeah, it could, as much as both Paul and Paige have talked about hoping that it does just that, it kind of forces others and gets that tide to rise. It could just create a larger gap between them and others, and not being, of course, their fault, but it could just bring to the table or bring to light a larger gap. And like you said, other sponsors could be like, yeah, okay, well, you're not doing what those two are doing, and therefore we're not willing to put out the money. And then at that point, what's their recourse?
There is none, other than seeing if another sponsor will give you something.
Yeah, and when all of the sponsors collectively are like, okay, well, there are a couple of outliers. It does come back to consistently asking who's got the power. Is it exclusively the manufacturer? Is it the players? And what can both of them do to increase their power or perceived power?
One of the good, if you want some good insight on this, our good friend Mo from Central Coast is doing a nice series through UDisc called Money Disc. So he's kind of breaking down the different things that make players valuable, whether that is, I know they looked at the they looked at the things like there, I unmuted you now. They looked at the things like their social media, favorites on UDisc and Instagram, the number of times someone literally opens up and unscrolls on UDisc to see their score when you hit that little down arrow, and like they count all of that and they kind of give you a general feeling. The one thing I would love to see, and I don't even know if it's possible, is they've done 2 parts and a special Paige Pierce part. I'd love to see them actually put numbers down as far as like, yeah, based on Paul McBeth or based on the information that we have, this is what this player is worth. Even if you did a percentage, like we feel that Nate Sexton is worth 85% of Paul McBeth, which they don't do. They just look at the different ways that an outliers and how you can measure a particular player's worth, but they don't actually ever put a worth behind that player. And I don't know if it's something you could truly do.
Yeah, essentially you're saying create a metrics of sorts that says...
Don't say metrics, it's UDisc.
You're
getting confused.
But have, Instagram followers carry this much weight, Twitter followers this much weight, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and maybe they get to that because where do you set the baseline? Do you set the baseline at Paul? Okay, Paul is worth $1 million. 4 years, $250,000 base salary. Let's just say that. Based on Nate Sexton's Instagram likes, his following, his favoriting, and the number of times we've viewed, we've come up with a kind of a general formula that we can estimate that Nate Sexton is worth $650,000 over the next 4 years. could you say something like that based on it? Because they do get into things such as commentary value and lead card, how many times you show up on a lead card, how much that's worth. And again, I don't know if Paul McBeth's the right baseline. I don't know if there is a right baseline, considering he's really the only number we have. He's the only hard number that I think anyone has publicly said.
Yeah, when we keep coming back to that contract, the announced or the known contract, and even there, it's going to take some statistical genius or actuary or somebody to come up with far more in-depth analysis than you and me as dummies just sitting here are going to come up with. But that may be a thing in the future. I mean, what muddies the waters is if you look at how many
SmashBoxx appearances,
Nate Sexton belts are sold via Grip 6, and then there's the big germ belt that gets sold, and then there's a big sexy belt. I mean, like, talking about muddying you have two individuals, and then you have a big sexy belt. Like, how do you differentiate all that? Where do you
Let's
place
be real,
the
all
weight?
your belts are big sexy belts. Heyo.
Heyo. Yeah. I'm
No, it's a good series. Go ahead and look at it. That's from our good friend Mo at Central Coast and UDisc apparently, and Ultraworld. Mo just and SmashBoxx as he was.
I think he's getting all of that information. A lot of that information is coming from UDisc, they're posting it to UDisc.
It is.
So I wouldn't say apparently UDisc.
Well, apparently UDisc, and I'm just saying all the different sponsors or people he's affiliated with in general.
Okay.
The information is coming from UDisc.
One thing that maybe I'll throw out there tomorrow or the next day, and it's not like it's hidden or anything, you can't go find it right now. I think it's vlog number 82. I personally stepped back for a moment. I was thinking about Paige, her first world title. I'm very fortunate. I think maybe myself and EMAC are two of the people that can say we were physically there and present to watch her tap in her final putt at all of her world title claims,
okay.
Right? She's won 5. I know I was filming. I think I filmed her tapping in on all 5 of her world championship rings. And EMAC, I think he said he might have not physically been at one of them. So maybe I'm the only person in the world. I know her. Thank you, jackass. I was going to say her dad, I don't believe has been at every single one of them. And I don't know if there's been a consistent competitor that's been there. Maybe, if anyone, Kat would probably come to mind maybe. Very cool. It's a silly little stat for my own for my own keeping.
Creeper.
But yeah, totally creepy. Or dedicated to FPL, one of the two. Anyway, vlog 82 is what I believe that it was. I interview Paige Pierce and Nate Doss. 2011 Worlds. It's after the Worlds has completed, an hour or so after it. And it's very early in my vlog career, which is kind of funny. I was a few pounds lighter.
Did I hold the camera for that? I might have.
Whoever did, they were breathing way too heavy. So if you did, you just stepped into it.
I don't remember.
I feel like it could have been Bill Sherman, good friend of ours, Bill Sherman. But if it was you, that would be funny because you audibly hear, I don't want to say a full-blown pant, but somebody is definitely breathing as the camera holder. And it very well could have been you now that you say that.
It might have been. I don't know.
Go and watch it. It was great. It was so funny. Paige, her interview, that wasn't the best interview she's ever given. It was obviously early in her career. And I'm not claiming I've hopefully
it was probably because you were a bad interviewer.
That's quite possible.
You're not nearly the interviewer you are now, which makes those players have probably felt really awkward. Like, who's this dude? He kind of sucks at his job. I hope he gets better over the next 8 years.
Who's this random guy talking to us? But Paige and Nate were Discraft teammates. Paige's first title, Nate's third title. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I never go back and watch any of my old stuff, I swear. I know Mo talks about doing it for research from time to time. He'll go back and use some of my old vlogs. It was a very endearing vlog.
Isn't it funny how short our perspectives are in that it has felt like forever that Discraft has been stagnant, that they haven't been keeping up, that, the disc golf world passed them by up until last year, 2018, when literally in 2011, they had 2 of their players win world championships, MPO and FPO, and then Doss proceeded to win another one after 2011. Didn't he win 13?
No.
Was it, or was 11 his last one?
11 was his last one.
11 was, I couldn't remember.
Got 3, Val's got 4.
Okay. But
That was his third.
either way, what, 7 years really between 2018 and 2011 when Discraft made their resurgence? That is such a short window, but yet everybody kind of wrote Discraft off for so many years that their products were just lacking, or their art or their social media skills or whatever. How quickly our sport changes and grows, and that now they are the new hot thing. I just find that funny.
Yeah, and right around that time frame, it wasn't long after. Obviously, Paige not only went to Prodigy, but also then Dynamic Discs wasn't really. I mean, they weren't making discs even at the time, so that was a non-factor. And even in 2011, I think that very day after I talked to them was when I did a brief interview with Steve and Bamba Rico, who were just getting Legacy going as well. And very, very early on where things were, and then all the stuff that's evolved since then. Eric McCabe being sponsored by Discraft at that time as well. Obviously, he went on to eventually join Dynamic Discs exclusively when they started making discs. We've seen, a lot of these things, I'll say, turn over, and then some come full circle. It's definitely been a wild ride. All right, they're asking about an online store, something you've been spearheading.
I am actively spearheading 2 different website updates right now. The SmashBoxxTV page, as well as the Skip Ace one right now. It's moving along very well. I have the final look for, I don't even know if I can bring it up here. I'd have to find it to find where my the mock-ups are. And it's not just a mock-up. I actually have a website that they put out on the developers page with a store on it. Right now, that store has literally 3 items, 2 of which are fake, and 1 of which is real. So we need to get that going, probably add a couple more items. I'm going to work with Terry as far as what he wants to maybe put in the store so we can kind of get that ramped up as well. But that you should be seeing that store hopefully in the next couple weeks so that we have items that we can ship and sell, and work with hopefully Miles from Paragon or whomever to start doing some fulfillment for us. Maybe Discraft will. Apparently there's fulfilling for anybody. And get a lot of that stuff taken care of. That would be really cool. And then the Skip Ace one is, I'll say this, the Smashbox one looks really nice. The Skip Ace one, it's
functional.
It's functional. It doesn't look bad, but it's I'm not, it's hard for me to argue for what I paid.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to look nicer. It's going to look a little bit more refreshed, but it is not nearly as graphically pleasing, I feel, as the Smashbox one. So when I'm looking at them both, I'm like, well, one looks a little bare and the other looks kind of nice. And I have 2 different companies working on them because I'm working through 2 different. One company that I take care of personally I've been working with for a while, and the Smashbox one is a new company that was recommended to us for this. So it's just a really funny looking at it, because the Skip Ace one needs to be much more. It is way more like a truck, utilitarian. I want people to be able to go on, click around, and do something specific. The Smashbox one, it needs to sell a business. It needs to have a cart. It needs to have all this other stuff. So we'll get there. We'll work it out. So hopefully we should see those. Oh,
and along those lines, I think we'd love to hear, what kind of things would you love to see in the store? I mean, clearly there's some obvious things when it comes to maybe shirts or hats or discs with stamps on it. If those are just the types of things you're looking for, to have put on there, and then immediately my mind starts to wander, which is why you haven't seen a lot of branding. Is it the cube or the S that people want with the, or is it the letters and everything? I mean, those, Johnny V and I, clearly not being graphic designers, that's why you haven't seen anything designed by us or put out there in large quantity. It's just a matter of you and Johnny and I don't really have that vision or foresight. So it'll be interesting to see what people get excited about and what they want to see as we move forward. And Johnny V is queuing up some action here.
I believe if I go to,
and now he's gonna press a button. Hold tight.
No clue why that's not working.
Okay, so never mind. Calendars, yes. Bo says. I don't know if you've just been around for that long.
He
Bo,
has,
but yes, I've always very much been pretty anti-calendar in this day and age. I thought they were a great idea in like 2001. I was assembling digital photos and thought a disc golf calendar was just a no-brainer and the smartest way in the world to do some fundraising for the year locally in Wisconsin. And I'm glad I never fully pursued it because they're not that big of a hit.
all right, here we go. I'm able to get it up here now. So,
Ooh.
yeah,
Let's
phrasing.
End the show.
This was sent to me tonight by our good friend Tim Courts.
Okay.
I think this is going to be our next shirt, our next
Wow.
clothing tier. We're going to do the Johnny V Pizzeria shirt.
I when we see a huge withdrawal or decline in our Patreon giveaways, I
Hey,
think we'll know exactly why.
They got a gorgeous polo last time,
Mm-hmm.
and
So you raised the bar nice and high, and
now I'm going to go back to our T-shirts.
Okay.
Polos are way more expensive than T-shirts.
Yeah, they are.
And so the clothing, I'd like to do one polo a year, but the clothing one is probably what we'll do. And I could see ordering some extra one of those and put it on there. I do want to do as well. We can get a Tear Bear one, maybe something that matches what's on your stamp with the bear and the camera, unless you have something better you'd like on a shirt. But I think that might be one of the things we put in the store. But it is going to be the clothing level this year, the support level. If you're at the $10 Patreon level, you will get that particular shirt. I don't know what colors we're going to pick yet. Those are just mock-ups. I like the green.
I don't really need your name on a shirt across my chest ever, so
Well, you're going to get one.
I'm gonna probably skip out on that.
No, I'm going to make you wear one.
No. When you sponsor, I don't know. You'll have to find something. All right. What else is on the board as we take a look? Dennis says conspiracies ruin pizza references. Smashbox socks. I do like that idea.
I actually, there is a website, I can't remember what it was, that lets you put your brand on all these different pieces of clothing and kind of sketch them out. And I did do a pair of socks on one of the things, so I would love to have a pair of socks for Smashbox ones. I don't think you
Smash
can
socks?
Smash socks.
Step inside your Smash socks?
Yeah, I like that. I would be awesome if we could get them on like Darn Tough socks, but that would be expensive because those Darn Tough ones are really nice. I have like 2 pair of them and they're just so comfy.
Ulysses writes, so I have a good feel for what's in JV's bag. Terry, what's in your bag these days? I'm not really golfing, although I did go out and play a week or two ago. I got a quick round in with Gary to the O.
You didn't even bring a bag.
No, I did not. I brought
because the course is that
yeah,
short.
it's that short, and I brought a Comet or two. I think I brought 2 Comets, identical, that are both 20 years old. So I brought 2 Comets. I brought a KC AVR, and maybe I brought a driver. There's one instance where you might throw one, and it was windy out, and that was, I think, a Pro Wraith maybe. Well, again, that course, but that's kind of the general setup. Either that or something like some old Ontario rocks. Those are the one disc I really collect, but an Ontario rock and a Comet are very, very similar, not quite identical. But those would be about it. If I'm playing in an actual tournament, it might be a few more wraiths, and then maybe a sidewinder or two, and then I might have one beefy, Firebird, maybe. Maybe a legacy disc or two from time to time. I do enjoy the gauge. If you didn't notice, there's a theme there. Relatively straight to understable mids seem to be something that I like. I really do like the gauge for that exact reason. That's been about it. I really am not throwing a whole lot of discs ever. I'm going to tell you, there's when I was in New Zealand last year, they had me, I was in the factory, so I got to walk around and hand pick a few items and just look at stuff. I threw the P Waka Waka, and it was also kind of in the same neighborhood of what I was just talking about. That was a phenomenal disc, and I'm not a big overstable mid kind of guy, but if I was, I do like the feel of these Kias. They are very gator. I picked it up. I'm like, this is like a gator, and similar, and it feels great.
It does.
If you wanted like a really beefy mid.
It's tacky.
Yeah.
It's like sticky, which I really like for mid ranges. I don't necessarily love that in putters, but this is it is very tacky. It feels nice. It does feel like a gator. It's a very blunt edge.
Yeah. So
the bead.
Oh, and I've thrown a Caillou. I love all the RPM disc names. They're all birds from New Zealand. The P Waka Waka, the Kia. Yeah, they're just crazy, crazy names. All right. Terry used to open random boxes of discs on his channel. I've only did that a couple times. I should get back at it because there is some. I've been acquiring more discs. I have a lot of random discs lately that just keep coming in that I'm not really doing anything with, and it's funny to see just this flow. You know, you see Nate Sexton Firebirds still selling, and bar stamp buzzes. You know, kind of like the obvious ones, and Cloud Breakers went through this huge spike and surge that we saw, and Doom Birds. It's they're constantly a lot of this chameleon stuff that we saw from Latitude 64 lately. It'd be interesting to see just how hot the Paige Pierce stuff is when that gets dialed in with exactly what she wants, what she's putting her name on, and what the sales look like. And is it something that's going to be sustainable, or will we see a really large burst of support, and then will people continue to buy it? And I think Paige is up for that challenge.
Well, I know Black Friday, they will have more available, more of her proto putters, the test flight ones, I believe, with her signature on them, from the Discraft store, and maybe even from her store as well, pagepierce.com. You can go out and check those out. Someone asks if I'm going to continue to, or Disc Golf Nerd asks, is Johnny V going to basically continue to putt with deputies, or am I going to go to magnets? I'm going to stick with my deputies. I have 4 of the 5 of them that were originally sent to me, and I like them, so I see no reason not to putt with them for at least another year. The way I, with as little as I play and the few tournaments I get to play, they could last me forever. Those four putters. But I do like them. I like the way they putt. I don't throw them too much. I prefer a slightly more stable putter if I'm going to throw. But as far as an actual putter, they work out really well. And I'm looking forward. We should be getting our putting league started up pretty soon here in the Milwaukee area. There's been some talks about what night it's going to be and where it's going to be,
and if it's going to be a marksman league or not. I think Correct. Is even a conversation.
I heard. I had seen that.
Did you
on
chime
one of the
in
posts.
on that?
I didn't. I don't want to. I don't know necessarily what night or whatever. I'd rather not put my thought out there because I might not honestly, depending on what night it is, I might not be able to participate. So. And so I'm going to let everyone else kind of do it, and if that's a decision, I don't want to be part of the decision-making process on that. But I really hope I'm able to make it because I do really enjoy that putting league.
All right, I'm going to read through a few additional lines here. John says, what PP Prodigy disc selling for now? I couldn't tell you. I don't see a lot. I'm not really that actively involved in the Prodigy Facebook pages. So I can't tell you what's incredibly popular or moving back and forth. I do know when they came out with Signature Series discs or like a Tour Series or Signature Series for the players, I went out and bought a ton of them. I know that when Prodigy first came out, I ordered 50 or 100 of the D1s and of the D4s. Like everything you could order, I ordered. And spoiler, shocker, I hoarded most of them. I didn't sell too many of them. So when people really get anxious about the earliest of the early Prodigy stuff, this guy should cash in. So I'll be ready for that. Maybe they already are and I'm out of the loop, but I do have a lot of it. Matthew says, when we sent him the Polo, you included a mini that changed colors. What kind of plastic is that? I forget. I worked with Zing Mini a year or so ago, I think right before we went to Thailand, and I had Disc Golf Guy and SmashBoxxTV minis made up. I've been occasionally dropping those in as extras or having them as some form of giveaway for the most part. And I cannot tell you exactly what that plastic type is, but I know they came from Zing Minis, and I'm not paid to say that. I didn't get a discount either. Paper or Plastic Sports says, I had completely written off Discraft. Selling Ledgestone stamped discs was like begging people to take them at cost back when I first started doing discs in 2006. It was Innova, Discraft, Gateway, and that's it. Yes. And, Johnny and I kind of already spoke to that full circle. Ledgestone, not only an influx of people and of stamps and events and of discs and molds that have become available, but now also I think a greater overall excitement for a lot of the Discraft molds that people maybe weren't otherwise trying, but now you're seeing some of our top players throw them regularly. And I'll echo what you're saying. Some of the early Ledgestone molds weren't as popular, and I honestly, I just got lazy. I meant to sell those as well, and I got lazy with it. So I have 85 to 90% of them, and right now a lot of them are very valuable, and I am ready to move some of them. I came across a stack of like SS Buzzes today, ZSS Buzzes that were specific to the Ledgestone a few years ago, and just those along with a lot of other ones. I know people are ready to gobble them up.
Do it. Strike while the iron's hot.
Get them while they're hot. Disc Golf Nerd said the Moonshine Deputy definitely has more stability for throwing and that he digs it, and I've heard that as well before.
Yeah, I've heard that the Moonshine stuff in general has a little more stability on it, I believe. So that would require me actually buying them, and I didn't buy my Deputy.
Oh my gosh.
Once in a while, I like to shout out Robert McCall for sending me the stack of Deputies he did, handpicked from the Dynamic Discs factory, from the warehouse, actually. So, yeah, if again, if I like them, I'll continue to putt with them. If I need to get new ones, I will. Or I'm truly at the whim of whoever sends me free discs. A stack of them, preferably, so I have a bunch of the same ones.
A shameless plug. Jeez.
I am not. We talked about this earlier. I'm not above being bought. Smashbox has a price. It's not much,
and most people can find it very easily.
Yeah. You have a wallet, you probably have our price.
Bo asks, what would y'all's dream card to film live be?
I think you have to throw Paul on there.
I would follow it up and ask, like, if I could ask for a clarifier, what's the objective? One that you'd enjoy calling the shots for, one that you think is going to get the most views, one that is played, depending on the course. Would you like to see certain players on certain courses? One that goes flawlessly with absolutely no technical glitches and great camera work and is a 2.5 hour round, because that's the dream card for me.
I think I'd like to see Paul. I'm going to go for enjoyability factor. Scott Stokely, Ken Climo, because I think there could be some fun dynamic between a 5-time champion chasing Kenny and Stokely and Kenny, who have had their issues in the past. I think that could create some fun tension. And who would be the fourth?
Simon? He's like in the middle, but not of all that.
That's just it, though. He's fun to
brings
watch.
A different entertainment value.
He brings a different entertainment value, but I don't think that I would want him in this particular card. I'm trying to think who I would want. I'm stuck on the fourth person right now.
Would you be looking for? I don't want to say fireworks, but are you looking for a little bit of the fire that may happen on the card then?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't think Paul is ever gonna. You're never gonna see fiery Paul.
Peter McBride. Really want to get him fired?
Maybe Nico. I mean, if you want fireworks, then you put Nico in there because
Okay.
I think Nico would be a lot. Nico's enjoyable. He's a great golfer, and he always adds that X factor that you're just never quite sure what you're going to get with him.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, for me, a really fun and enjoyable card to watch, just purely on, like, entertainment value. And I put Paul in there, not because I think he's going to get fired up, but because I think he is one of the most fun players to watch for me, because I love watching him throw discs and putt. It's just, he's so pure with his shots, and I think that'd be enjoyable to me.
Jeez, why don't you marry him?
I can't. Somebody already got to it before I did.
All right, Nick S. Thoughts on increasing max distance weight for putters only usable outside circle 1 could require a special stamp or marking to prevent use elsewhere on the course. Your thought is that it would reduce spit outs. Nick, I don't think I know you that well, but I think that's a terrible idea on every level. I mean, I appreciate that you think outside the box. That's something I would never even think of. But now that you've brought it to my attention, there's nothing about that I like. Nothing.
I think
if you want a heavier disc,
hard to enforce.
It'd be nearly impossible to enforce. And I'm thinking almost strictly logistically. First of all, circle 1 has to be defined, has to be noted everywhere, has to be absolutely just that, defined. Second of all, if you want to have your disc outside the circle and you're looking for that weight, then throw a rock or a buzz instead of your magnet or your challenger or your AVR. Lastly, and maybe you have some scientific backing to this, I don't know that would reduce any spit outs. I don't. 180 gram, we'll say AVR. I don't know if that would reduce. I mean, maybe scientifically tiny to some. What's the fraction on that? Like, what is the tiniest percentage or fraction of improvement you receive on that? Because is it 1% or is it 0.001%? It's tough for us to tell because we always see perfect putts from any disc sometimes go through or not stick. I don't mean to sound harsh or blunt or brutal. Don't like any of it, though. Yeah, I just I do love, again, that you would think of something of that nature. Because I don't think that way. But
I haven't looked.
I don't like any of that.
I have not looked at the specifications for a disc. Is there something that says it has to be round?
Well, that goes back to
the old turbo
the
putter.
turbo putt conversation. I also am not a technical specs guy to say if they're what it is. I mean, there's flexibility, there's like a sharpness and a leading edge and a rim depth and a depth to weight ratio and a radius ratio, all this other stuff. I don't know exactly how you'd have to basically Google the technical standards to get you to that answer. I would assume so. Because that was part of the argument about the turbo putt with its spoke-like edge to it.
Correct. And I just think something like the spoke edge maybe would catch chains better.
Mm-hmm.
But my other thought was, what if you had a disc that, a putter that is 80% round with a flat side on it, one flat edge. And I've said this before, where let's just play pretend that you're worried about you're putting on a slope from 50, 60 feet. You're worried about a roll away.
Okay, well,
you putt, hit that edge. It probably tips over. It doesn't roll anymore.
coming all the way in from Australia, which marks almost exactly 1 year since I went there, visited, hung out, met this gentleman. Luke Turnbull says, I'm guessing he is directly quoting, one, have a circular, saucer-like configuration with a flight plate unbroken by perforations and an underside inner rim depth that is between 5 and 12% of the outside disc diameter. Then he goes on to say the flight plate is defined as the upper or dorsal section of the disc, which is delineated by points where the inner rim depth is measured. The saucer-like configuration requires a significant degree of asymmetry between the upper and lower sections, resulting in distinct top and bottom sides of the disc. So there is. Are you just paraphrasing? Or
It's off the top of my head.
Yeah. So thank you, Luke, from Australia, who I'm guessing went out to the tech standards and presumably copied and pasted that directly. So, yeah, that's some legalese type.
Okay,
which makes perfect sense.
That answers my question. I mean,
Bo says, I only know what like 7 of those words mean.
Just
funny,
five more than me.
Even saucer-like, then I mean it goes on to then clarify, but yeah. So there are your answers. He said, I happened to have it open as I was talking basket standards with someone. Now, little known secret or fact maybe that the basket standards for disc golf are incredibly generous, lenient, I don't want to say favorable, open. There are a lot of, and I guess that was by design, which seems like it could be a catch-22 clearly, that basket standards and regulations are just very, very open-ended and open for interpretation. And that clearly can create some creativity. We've seen some terrible basket designs that are still approved because they meet the specs and the qualifications. But it also leaves room for, like I said, some creativity and ingenuity and uniqueness.
Nick asks, how do you feel about having regulation sizes for tee pads for major/tour events?
I would love to see that. We'll channel our inner Avery Jenkins, for instance.
I was going to say Avery. That was
who has been very much him.
That was always his vocal.
And Jay Redding, and I'm guessing before that, plenty of other professionals that maybe didn't have social media to use at the time. Absolutely, I don't think anyone would argue against it. I know there are guidelines that have been, designed and have been, I don't want to say enforced, offered up, but one of the things they made, and this does bring up a good point. And I wish I had the exact words in front of me. At the summit, the PDJ summit this year, they talked about removing earthen tee pads at our majors. So essentially
dirt, or does that include gravel? Does that include crushed limestone?
They discussed all of those things, and so I don't want to speak incorrectly as to
where
they made those decisions. But earthen tee pads is something that they wanted to remove from being available at any of our majors and maybe NTs, at least our majors, and that was voted upon. So
I think we have run through our list of questions here on the board.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we can do our Patreon giveaway at some point.
All right, you get that squared up, and Nicholas to follow that, to put a pin in it. Yeah, I guess that's one of the ways to go about it. There's a lot of things we could put places to put a pin in that. Ideal size 6 by 12. I feel like is big enough. Somebody may say, well, if you're going to do it, and you're going to create a standard, and you want to for sure have it big enough. Somebody may go to a 14 or a 16 footer, but I personally think a 6x12 is big enough. That's me.
I do as well.
James Conrad may disagree, of course, but and then you look at a Sarah Hokum who's throwing a forehand and is literally using the last 3 feet of a tee pad, but 6x12 seems pretty darn big and that's only grown and expanded since Johnny V and I came in. You used to be ecstatic if you had a 4x8. Like you didn't even that wasn't even a conversation piece.
No,
like you went to a course, there was a tee pad. 9 times out of 10, if there was a concrete tee pad, it was 4x8. Like it wasn't a conversation piece. And then we saw tee pads obviously get bigger and bigger throughout the.
Which makes a lot of sense as the courses get longer. The tee pads should get bigger.
I get bigger. I'm growing with the tee pads. That's
Sure.
a good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll go with that. All right, you've got a Patreon list in front of you. As always, we thank and appreciate each and every one of our Patreon supporters. We love you more than if you're not a Patreon supporter. That's harsh, but true. You guys continuing to support us via Patreon helps not only with our giveaways, of course, but keep everything up and running and moving throughout the entire year. And we love to give back. We love to do special things for our Patreon supporters, really extra special things depending on what level you're at. And just generally, we just thank you so much for doing what you do. So this week, thanks to RPM, who's involved again with the cold turkey this weekend, I'm going to be giving away we'll be giving away here an RPM t-shirt. This is a super soft tee, thanks to Miles over at Paragon Disc Golf. You know what? You will get your money back. If you get this t-shirt and do not think it's one of the softest, most comfortable t-shirts you've ever worn, send it back and we'll be glad to give you nothing. So, just kidding. But it's super comfortable. Those are the only shirts that I like to order because they are so comfy.
Okay. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. For as little as $1 a month, you can be eligible for this giveaway. I sorted these particular by email address.
Wow.
Which you'd be surprised is pretty different than their name. You have a lot of people who just choose
very creative
email
Some
addresses.
night we should also have a prize for the most creative email address. And it doesn't have to be disc golf related.
We could have a creative for the their Patreon name, which this one is A Little Slap and Tickle. That's a pretty creative name. Whatever. All right, so we have 204 Patreon supporters that we are going to be choosing a random number. Terry, I need a random number.
This is easy. All right. This weekend, I am hosting for the 14th year in a row the cold turkey. So we'll read through 14 numbers.
No.
Like that? All right. We've capped it at 72 players. We're sold out. No. All right. How about this? Because there were no FPO competitors, Barrett White, she was the only FPO competitor. She very graciously messaged me the other day and said, well, I want to play. I love supporting your events. And go ahead and put me with the 2 MP50 players. Barrett barely is eligible for FP50, so she's going to play with the men this weekend, and I'm picking her to take it down. There's 3 of them, so we'll go with the third number.
All right, we are going with the third number. Our first number is 125. Our second number is 31. The final number is 138. I scroll up to 138, and I see CS Cobb. Congratulations, CS Cobb.
I'm guessing that's our friend Chris Cobb.
You think so? Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb.
Oh yeah. I'm so dumb. I didn't put it together.
You are. Chris Cobb, an active supporter here on the message board. Thank you so much, Chris. I believe he may even have moderator status.
He does. I know
that
Chris
much. Some are going to call collusion. There's no quid pro quo here. There's no collusion. None of that. This was not rigged, I swear. But Chris, thank you. You're going to get an RPM disc shirt sent your way. I could even guess your size probably, but we'll wait to get that from you, and then we'll get it sent out. So thank you very much for that, Chris. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for always working with us and supporting us in a lot of different ways.
Hopefully I'll see you maybe in a few weeks. Maybe we could check out some of that Shelly Sharp action that we had Keith Murray talking about a few weeks ago. Shelly Sharp, one of the first A tiers of the year, and I think that's going to be exciting. And I think this, it's going to be another week, before we see the Memorial registration, and that's going to be fast and furious. Rest in peace, Paul Walker. All right. Are we ready to call it? Paul Walker disc golfed.
We are now. I know.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. Johnny V's saying that's all we got. Go out, watch the PCS Open, and then look for right around the corner. You're going to hear more about it for sure. Will be the Drava Forester. That is next in the queue. Big Germ, another shout out. Anytime you're ready. Commentary for Nantucket. Whenever you're ready, buddy. I'll just sit and wait at home every day for you to show up so we can do commentary. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, for all of our amazing Patreon subscribers and supporters, thank you. We love you. Everyone, go out, have a great Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Be safe. Party with your high school friends, as Johnny said. But be safe. Enjoy time with friends, family. Don't get too crazy during the shopping madness. And we'll see you after Cyber Monday. We'll see you next Tuesday night when it'll be podcast 276. Thank you. We love you guys. See you next time. You step inside the Smash Box.